What's up, everybody? Jake Peters here from PS This Is Awesome, PlayStation podcast. No obscure science references for the introduction this week. I am joined today by a friend of the show, LJ. He's been on a couple times in the past with Fred. I think he was on with me and Fred one time previously, which, if I recall correctly, was a little bit of a technical nightmare. But it's good to have him back. Just to kind of throw it out there, Fred is still on hiatus. Not quite sure when he'll be back, but in the meantime, we will hold down the fort. I am learning how to do all of this shit on the fly, so if there are technical issues, crappy audio, the video screws up, LJ disappears, don't shoot me, just tell me about it, and we'll try and figure it out for next time. That said, I'm not going to go through Fred's whole spiel that he does every week. Obviously, everybody who's listened to the podcast knows that I am on PSN, JakeSaw01. You're more than welcome to add me. I don't really play multiplayer games, so chances are I'm not going to be interested in playing a game with you online, but I like hearing people sometimes will message me on there and stuff like that, and it's always cool to make a friend. Fred is Anchorless_81. We've got a Patreon. It's just $1 a month. It's called the One and Only $1 Club. If you feel like joining that, I gotta say, LJ, I was thinking about this when we were getting ready for the show about the Patreon, and I am almost positive that you cannot buy anything for less than $1 anymore.
Yeah, probably.
So we will have to see if that is true or not, but hold on, I'm trying to see. I got some.
Even Dollar Tree isn't even $1 anymore.
That's exactly correct. So I'm trying to figure out why you have disappeared from my Discord here. I'm not sure why that is. Not Discord. What the hell? Oh no, you're in here. I have no idea. This could be a nightmare. We're just gonna roll with it, and it could be. I still hear you. Can you talk?
Absolutely.
I could still hear you. So if your video pops in and out because of some technical glitch, it just means people won't have to look at your face. So
for the better, probably.
Yeah. So anyway, little bit of a goofy start. This is episode 415 of the show. We're just gonna talk about shit like we normally do, get into the games we're playing. It'll be a little bit interesting having LJ here because you and I have talked some on like text messaging and things like that because we're in a little bit of a group thread, me, you, and Fred, and you and I have talked about a few things in the past. But I was kind of curious about we talked a little bit before the show about sort of your roots and how you grew up not far from where I grew up and how we have mutual friends because of the church you went to and things like that. And I think that's all awesome. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about is that you are in at least one band, correct?
Yeah, we started another band.
You started another band. So you're in two bands now.
Correct.
Now, are these two bands in any way connected, or is it just that you have one band and then you started a band with some other people?
The latter. Yeah, they have nothing to do with one another. Very different style music, different people, everything.
Tell me about these bands, because I am obviously... Fred and I are both into music, grew up going to shows, and obviously, if you're in a band, you're into music as well. So what are these two bands you're in? If you don't want to get into it, you don't have to, but I'm curious about like what style of music you play, sort of do you guys play a lot of shows? Do you mainly just do it for fun? Do you do it for money? How's that kind of working for you?
Yeah. So the band I've been in the longest is a band called Malingo, and we're kind of all over the place, but like I would say bluegrass, psychedelic blues, jam band vibes.
Hell yeah.
I've been in that for like 3.5 years, and basically a guy you knew from an old church I went to, he had this musical project that he made, like he was doing everything on his own, and he was like, I want to make this a live thing. So he basically got a band together and asked me to play bass, because we used to play bass at church, or I used to play in a worship band with him. So anyways, we started doing that, and it's been doing that for 3.5 years. Love it. We have various albums and a few live albums on like Spotify and all that. I have made some money from that band through shows and streaming. And we play, I don't know, maybe 10-ish shows a year. But like last year, we got paid to go to Wisconsin. I've played in Ohio a few times, Illinois, and I'm in Indiana. So like, that's kind of branching out a little bit. So that's cool. I have a lot of fun in that band. That's not the kind of music I listen to whatsoever, but I do have fun creating it. More recently, my best friend and I, we had been talking about it for a few years, starting something, because we both like the same kind of music, like metalcore is what I would call it. And yeah, basically he put together, I joke and say it's like a super group plus me, because all the other dudes have been in like other metalcore bands in central Indiana over the years, decades really. So anyways, that band just started. Like we literally have one song done. We've only had like 3 practices, but that's a whole different beast, because just a different style of music, but one I actually enjoy. Not to say that I don't like the music we create in Malingo, it's just not what I listen to. So I'm having fun, like kind of doing both things. It's just very challenging because they're so different. Different styles. Yeah, and I play bass like you.
So you play bass in both bands?
Correct.
Okay. Now, it's funny that you bring up sort of the second band and sort of like your feelings on the style and everything like that, because we're kind of kindred spirits in this fashion, to where I play bass in Fred's band that he does for his solo stuff, which is all like, acoustic kind of singer-songwritery kind of stuff. But if I'm being 100% honest, I maybe like 3 times a year will listen to a song that falls into that category. And the only reason why I play in the band is because I'm friends with all the guys. I enjoy writing this, doing the arrangements for the songs that Fred comes up with. The shows can be hit or miss for me. I do like playing live, and maybe you've experienced this a little bit with your band Malingo, but a lot of the opportunities that are available to us in our area are very like, go play this restaurant where nobody gives a shit about the music. You're just kind of there, or whatever. And so usually once or twice a year, we'll play a gig where it's like a local music festival, or a brewery or a restaurant where a big part of the culture of that venue is the music, and you get a lot of engagement and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of times now, you go to these places and you play these venues, and it's just like you might as well be playing for you're just playing for yourself basically. And sometimes you get a good pop and stuff, and it's really fun, but other times you don't. And when you're driving an hour and a half to get there and you're playing for gas money, sometimes it's a little bit frustrating. However, that said, I do enjoy being in the band. I love playing the music. I love hanging out with Fred and Troy and Nate. And my wife is in the band, Sarah, as well as a backup vocalist. And but I'm with you on the whole genre thing, right? We did a show as The Flood, which is Fred's, acoustic band, right? We did a Halloween show where it was all electric, and we did all Alkaline Trio covers, and it was plugged in, it was fucking loud, and it was the most fun I've ever had playing a show. It was like 30 minutes long, and we just went balls out, just ripping for 30 minutes, playing just loud music, and I loved it. Now, am I going to go and join another band so that I can play that kind of music? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't quit playing with the Flood just to go play that kind of music, but it is one of those things where it's like, it does kind of get your blood flowing whenever you play stuff that you're more interested in when you listen to it more often. Now, there are two very different animals. Like it's probably the same way with Malingo, where it's like when we play the Flood shows, we're playing for like minimum of 2 hours, usually 3 hours, with maybe a break or two in there. And I'm not going to be playing a fucking metal show for 3 hours. I can tell you that right now. I would be dead. And and the audience wouldn't really care for it either. So there is a big thing there. And I was actually in a band in shortly, like when I was in college, and shortly after college, it was like a shitty kind of hardcore like metal band called Rainbow Delights, and I played guitar in that band. Actually, I've always played guitar. I just started playing bass for Fred's band, basically. And I remember really enjoying it, but it has its own level of stress. Like when I play bass in the Flood, I don't feel nearly as much pressure because you're kind of like in the background. You're just kind of laying the rhythm down. As long as you're there, it's cool, man. You don't have to be playing this, crazy. You don't have to be freaking Geddy Lee up there. You just have to kind of lay the back end down and kind of stay in step with the drummer. Whereas, like, when you're playing guitar in a metal band or even like a punk rock band or something, like, that's what everyone's hearing. And so you really have to be on your game. And I used to practice all the time when we were in that band. And anymore, it's just like, I just don't have time to practice like that, And so like I have a guitar, like a guitar that I have sitting just in a guitar stand beside my computer desk that when I sit down to do something on the computer, I'll just pick it up and noodle for like 10 minutes. But that's like the extent of how much I practice when I play. So anyway, we've been talking about music for like 10 fucking minutes, and I'm sure that people that like, although if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that we don't really talk about video games until like 30 minutes in. But yeah, so it's good to have you, and good to kind of touch base with you a little bit on some of that, because obviously we could talk about everything, from where you were born to, how many siblings you have. But I don't know that that's really important. One of the things I do want to ask you, though, because most people that listen to the show kind of know, at this point at least, what my interests are when it comes to video games and Fred's. But so we talked a little bit before the show about how you and I maybe didn't necessarily know each other personally back then, but we ran in similar circles with regards to local LAN parties and things like that on the PC side. But I have no other indication as far as like what your background is with video games, how you got into it, and sort of like the styles of games that you grew up playing, and sort of maybe where your head's at nowadays.
Yeah, I would say like I started with Super Nintendo growing up, and then I remember I got PlayStation 1. In fact, I still have mine. My mom found it actually kind of recently, and I was like, yes, please, I'll take that.
Oh, yeah.
And stuck with PlayStation 1 and 2, and then kind of like before the show we were talking, I switched to PC just because it felt like there was a real boom in the very late 90s, probably more early 2000s, and just where we grew up, LAN parties were huge. I feel like more with PC. So anyways, I kind of switched to that and rode that PC gaming out till like through college, and then like a little bit after college, and then I kind of stopped playing video games, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And then I did get an Xbox 360, I don't know, shortly after it came out, but I'll be honest, I really didn't play it too much. And then this very podcast was kind of a reason that I would say it was one of two reasons why I got back into gaming. The other was my brother-in-law, and it was like right before the PS5 came out. And I remember I kind of like started talking to Fred more, and he was telling me about gaming. And then, yeah. So, anyways, I got a PS5, and now I play it like pretty much every day. My whole family does. I mean, I had to get a second one actually. Yeah. So, and then in terms of games that I like to play, I mean, I'm pretty open to all kinds of games. I don't play much sports games, but I do play a lot of online games, like multiplayer games like Fortnite, Helldivers, Arc Raiders, that kind of stuff. But, you know, I like a good first-person game, too. Like, the last one I played was Ghost of Yotei. And, yeah, so, I mean, I'll play quite a bit of stuff. I do really enjoy playing with friends, though. And it doesn't matter really what kind of game it is for that.
My gut is to say that's interesting, but it's probably not an uncommon trajectory for video games. I mean, it's very similar to mine. I started on, my parents bought me when I was very little. They bought me an SNES practically when it launched with Super Mario World, and that's where I started. And then we actually got an N64, but I had two cousins that lived really close to me that had PlayStation 1s. So between the N64 and the PS1, we did play a lot there. And then transitioned into the PS2, where I spent a good portion of my sort of formative years on console, I would say, from, you know, basically junior high to maybe early high school. And then it was, like you said, it was all PC all the time, basically from the time that I was able to get myself a PC. Because, I mean, I'm sure you remember this, like getting a gaming PC, not that it's any different now, but it's always been almost prohibitively expensive if you wanted something that was really good. Like we all had the friends that had like the like, I'll never forget when I was in high school, a mutual friend of ours, Corey, he got the best video card available at the time, which was the 6800, the NVIDIA 6800 Ultra. And I'll never forget when he got this in high school. And I'm like, how the fuck did you afford this? Because it's like at the time, this was like a $600 video card. And it would be the equivalent of getting like a 5090 nowadays, which is like a $2,000 video card. Mm-hmm. So, you know, obviously everybody found their way to get their stuff, you know, to get their PC built. But like for me, it was all about like, okay, well, you know, I couldn't afford a lot of this stuff on my own. And so it was like, okay, for Christmas, I'm going to get these pieces. And then for like my birthday, I'm going to get this piece. And so like, you know, you first build it with like the motherboard and the CPU and maybe like a really shitty video card, or like the PC, the motherboard had like onboard video. And then you would just play with just really shitty graphics and really shitty frame rate until that next, you know, money boost where you could get a video card. And then now you had a video card, and now you could play more games, but maybe you needed a bigger hard drive or you needed more RAM. And so it was an interesting time. Like, it's not like now where most people that play video games, I would say, that are in this space like we're talking about, are older now. Whereas when we were kids, the average age of a video gamer was like teens, 20s, and affordability wasn't the same. Where it's like now it's like, oh yeah, you know, everyone that has a gaming PC spent like $4,000 on it because they're all 30 something. And it's like, it's a very interesting thing. But do you remember I wouldn't have been able to afford PC gaming at all. I don't condone this. I don't condone this at all. But I would not have been able to afford PC gaming at all if it wasn't for cracking video games and torrent websites. Because
1,000%.
and we used to go, and you remember this, we would go to LAN parties and people would just share everything. So somebody would have 5 or 10 games, and literally everybody either over the network at the LAN party or via like DVDs or CD-ROMs, we would all share all of the games so that we could play them on for the LAN party or whatever. And it's really interesting. And Steam, 2004, when Half-Life 2 came out, Steam kind of I don't want to say they killed it, because the torrent culture existed through the early 2010s. But once Steam really came into its own, that kind of killed that whole thing. Because now you can get games so cheap on Steam that it's who cares? But back in I would have killed for something like Humble Bundle when I was a kid, where you could spend $10 and you get 15 fucking PC games. And but anyway, that's a little bit of a diatribe. But yeah, I'm with you. So I played literally till after college. All I did was play PC games. And then I switched back to console in 2009 when the slim PS3 came out. Because the PS3, as everyone knows, we're talking about things that are prohibitively expensive. The PS3, when it launched, was fucking $600. And so when the slim came out, I think it was $299 or something. And it was I can actually afford this now. And that's when I got back into console gaming. Fred kind of introduced me to, when I got my PS3, he introduced me to games like Uncharted and stuff like that. And then you're it's a whole new world of whoa, this is completely different than the video gaming that I'm used to. It's much more cinematic, much more grandiose. And then at the same time, in that era, we were getting things that were a little bit more indie. You think about games like Castle Crashers and Super Meat Boy, which are big, Summer of Arcade kind of games. But even, smaller stuff like that, Flower Flow, Journey, all that kind of stuff was all completely new to me. Because it was if it wasn't Grand Theft Auto, or it wasn't, not that I played a lot of. What's that?
Battlefield or some kind of
yeah. Because when we did LAN parties and stuff, it was always Call of Duty and Dota and Dota and things like that. It wasn't I don't remember the some of the LAN parties, the bigger LAN parties that we were probably both at, but I know when we would have smaller LAN parties, we would do different things. We would do StarCraft or Worms. Yes, Worms World Party.
Oh yeah,
was absolutely awesome. Dude, I'll never forget when I was in high school. I was probably in 9th or 10th grade. How old are you? We might be the same age.
I think I'm 38. Yeah, I graduated in 2005.
Yeah, so we are the same age. So I remember when I was, I don't know, it must have been 9th or 10th grade. I went over to a friend's house and he showed me Worms World Party for the first time. And I was like, oh, this is the best fucking game I've ever played. And then the first time somebody used the holy hand grenade, I swear to God, I fell off of my fucking chair. Because it's just so, it's games like that, we weren't playing stuff like that, where it was just, it didn't take itself seriously. It was very sort of off the cuff, very, I don't want to say low budget, because there are a lot of Worms games, but just all about just fun and not necessarily. Yeah. So anyway, I guess we could kind of move on, but that was basically, it's kind of interesting to know that I wonder if there's a relationship with the fact that because we're the same age, we had kind of similar trajectories because of the way gaming culture was kind of escalating at the time. And kind of like you, and I think this is probably common for most kids, but when I was in college and maybe a little bit after college, I was kind of I don't want to say I was out of video games, but it wasn't my focus, right? I was more interested in, girls, let's be honest, at the time. And, I had a girlfriend and I was more preoccupied trying not to trying to survive that whole experience. And you know, and obviously, you know, you got parties and things like that. But you are talking about LAN parties. The only other thing that I'll bring up, just to kind of put a little bit of a pin in this whole history segment, is the only LAN parties I remember. There was a point in time in late high school where LAN parties transitioned a little bit into the mainstream with Halo parties on Xbox, the original Xbox. And that was a big thing when I was in high school. I had all kinds of a completely different friends group that I would say culturally would clash with the LAN party crowd. You know, we're talking like football players and got like all kinds of popular kids, all kinds of stuff. And we'd all like go to someone's house, get 4 TVs that are all playing 4-player split screen, LAN, you know, networking up 4 original Xboxes and playing the original Halo. And then we would do that and eat pizza. And then, and that it's really interesting how, and like that was almost like the beginning of like I hate to call it like the bro shooter sort of like epoch of gaming, but it's kind of like, you understand kind of where I'm going with it, where it's like it was attractive more to everyday guys, not just the people that were willing to put the work in on the PC side, because you kind of have to be a little bit of a dork or a nerd, I guess is a better way to say it, to get into the PC side, because you have to know about the computers. You have to know about all the drivers and the Windows and the fucking torrents and all of that stuff. Whereas, like, you could do the same thing with an Xbox. You just plug a cord in and you play. And that's, I think, something to be said. So, anyway, where do we want to go from here? I don't know. Let me see. I'm hesitant to, like, pull up the... Last time I pulled up this screen, your video disappeared. But I think what I'd like to do is we'll jump into what we're playing now, because I don't have... I did a little bit of digging on listener feedback. We don't get a lot of it, but I'm sort of... Like I said, it's kind of difficult for me to check all the places, so it's entirely... If somebody did write in and I didn't see it, I apologize. I'm doing my best here. But I'd like to start with you, LJ, because I've been kind of... gabbing for a while now. Why don't you tell me what you've been playing? I see that you have been playing Avowed, which I'd like to talk about because I played quite a bit of Avowed myself on Xbox. And then I also want to talk to you about Gauntlet, because I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, because there are very different there are many renditions of that. So let's start with let's start with Gauntlet, because I think we can talk about Avowed maybe for a little bit. So tell me about this. What version of Gauntlet are you playing, and where are you playing it?
Yeah, so this is perfect because this is the last game I technically played. I just played on Friday night, but I'm playing the one from 2014.
The PS4 one?
By Arrowhead. Yeah. Dude, never heard of it. And my cousin Josh was like, hey, like another guy, one of my best friend Blake, he's in that metal band with me. We're in a group chat. We play games frequently together. And so my cousin Josh was like, you guys should get Gauntlet. It's only $5 and it's fun. And I'd never even heard of it. And so, we just started playing it. I mean, I've only played it probably 2 or 3 times. It's just fun. I mean, again, I'm playing it with people I know, so it's cool to just kind of bullshit and stuff when you're playing it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's just like a dungeon crawler, kind of like arcadey kind of game. You just play different levels, and there's different kind of gameplay mechanics to it. And you get gold, and you can upgrade your weapons. And I mean, it's pretty basic, to be honest. But
it seems very... Cause
I never heard of it.
I did play this a little bit when it came out. I can't remember if it was on PS Plus at the time or something. But I'm just like looking at screenshots, and it looks like there's just a lot of times there's just a ton of enemies on the screen.
Yes, and very hack and slash.
So I get the vibe from this that it's not like a in-depth RPG type system. It's not like a Diablo or something like that. It's more of like hey, I'm just a guy. Like, you pick your class, and then you're like, hey, I'm just a guy in a dungeon. and you're just walking around hitting shit or shooting stuff at them or doing whatever. And then, they give you like a little, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said they collect gold. I assume, you get a little bit of like incentive to collect things to kind of improve your character, but it's not like you're doing all kinds of looting and comparing weapon stats and doing all kinds of stuff like that. Is that correct?
You nailed it. Yep.
Okay.
Very simple.
That's really cool because there was I can't remember if the original Gauntlet was on NES or arcade. It might have been an arcade game. I don't remember. It was like way back. And then there was one called Gauntlet Legacy Mode or something. Gauntlet.
So my cousin Josh, who told me about it, I think he was familiar
Legends.
with it because
Dark Legacy. Sorry,
64.
Yeah, the Dark N64 game, Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Because I did play this one, which is pretty interesting.
Well. He said he had good memories of that game.
All right, now maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing here. This one's on GameCube and PS2. Gauntlet. You said it was on N64 because I did play an N64 Gauntlet Legends. Gauntlet Legends was the one on N64. I remember this box art now. It has the rainbow striping of the different class characters, and it just looks so fucking goofy. But yeah, I didn't own it, but we would that was back when you could rent video games and stuff. So we would rent stuff like this all the time and play it. But yeah, that's cool, man. I'm glad to see. I love talking to people who get into games like this because we take for granted maybe being sort of tied in and having this podcast and stuff of just like playing games when they come out and kind of it's difficult to keep up nowadays, but keeping up in some capacity with the industry and the releases and all of this stuff, at least as far as the big stuff goes, and kind of knowing what all of the games are, even if you didn't play them or whatever. But I feel so envious of somebody who, like, even somebody in your position who got a PS5 like 5 years ago or whatever it was, where you've got not only all of the PS5 stuff, but you've got everything from PS4 that you can play. And that library is really extensive. But even extending beyond that, the PS3 library is absolutely amazing. And a lot of the games that are relevant from that era have been ported to PS4. So you can still play them without having to buy a used PS3 or something like that and just play a really, quite frankly, the user experience on the PS3 is absolutely terrible nowadays. But it's just because it was just slow, and I actually don't mind the cross media bar on the PS3, but it was very slow, and the store was awful because it was like a browser and it was really, really slow. But a lot of the games that came out of that, a lot of like the inside jokes on the podcast, and we talk about Space Marine and we talk about Richard and Quantum Conundrum and all these games. That was all from the PS3 era, and a lot of those games have pushed forward to the PS4 era, and once it's on the PS4, it's on the PS5. So it's really cool for me to see someone like you who is, I don't want to say, you were maybe a lapsed gamer, you could say, for a little while there.
For sure.
At least on the console side, for sure you were a lapsed gamer because you went from PS2 to PS5. But to be able to get on PS5 when you did, and like you could literally be good for ever. With just the catalog that exists. Not to mention all the cool new stuff that's going on. So is that overwhelming for you? I'm just curious. Is it overwhelming for you? Or are you just kind of like a go with the flow, I'm just going to play what looks interesting to me kind of guy?
It can be, because I'm also kind of a completionist in some way. So like, it's just, even just the Uncharted, you're like, okay, I got to start at 1. Oh, but there's like 5 out right now.
Yeah.
That can be overwhelming.
But at least with something like Uncharted, and I guess a lot of the older games were like this, you could theoretically beat all of the Uncharted games in, I don't know, 50, 60 hours of gameplay. And that is a long time, but we're talking about 5 games you can beat in that time period. So I think the longest one is Uncharted 4. It might be 15, 20 hours. But if you're talking about like the first Uncharted or the second Uncharted, if you know what you're doing, you can beat that game in probably under 10 hours. So, and then, you know, you could talk about, if you really wanted to dig into it, there's like Golden Abyss and Lost Legacy and the fucking trading card game thing that they had. But I'm pretty sure Lost Legacy and Golden Abyss are canon, but you don't have a Vita, right? I'm assuming you don't have a Vita.
No.
So, like, you really can't play Golden Abyss, which is... It's absolutely an atrocity to me that they have not ported that game to console, because it is technically canon, I'm pretty sure. But unless you have a Vita, you can't play it. And that's really unfortunate. So... Okay, well, that's really interesting. I hope you... You'll have to let me know how Gauntlet goes if it stays with you, as far as like if you guys enjoy playing it and you get all the way through the end, because that game reminds me a lot of, in the PS2 era, there were a few games that me and some friends would play couch co-op. They were in a similar vein, but more, I want to say maybe more hardcore. One of them was Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, and on PS2, and the other one was a game called Champions of Norath, which was very, very similar. And we used to literally, in high school, I'd go over to a friend's house. He'd put it up on his PS2. There'd be anywhere between 2 and 4 of us. We'd have somebody would come up with a case of beer, and we would just sit there like dweebs and just play this game all night long. And it was so much fun. And looking at the screenshots of this game, it really gave me a lot of those vibes, even though it might not be as deep as something like a Baldur's Gate or a Champions of Norath. It has that sort of spirit to it, or at least it feels that way. So, okay, well, let's jump into Avowed, because I'm curious about the PlayStation 5 port of it. And if I haven't played it, I've only played the Xbox version. So for all I know, they're exactly the same or they're completely different. You've never played the Xbox version, I assume, so you probably have no idea either. But I would imagine that the PlayStation port of it, the PS5 port of it, probably runs a lot better, maybe even looks a lot better than the version I played on my Series S, because it is the weaker of the Xbox consoles. So tell me what you think about Avowed, because I don't know if you have any experience with these types of first-person fantasy games, like your Skyrims and stuff like that. And if you do, how this compares, and if you don't, what your first impression is.
Yeah, I mean, I played a little bit of Skyrim, but I haven't played many. Obsidian, that's who made it, right?
Skyrim was Bethesda Game Studios. Obsidian did Avowed.
Okay, and they made like what? Fallout New Vegas?
They made New Vegas, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so like, I mean, I'm addicted to it, to be honest. I haven't really played much multiplayer games because of it. I'm probably like probably pushing 30 hours into it. I really like it. I'll be honest, I was a little nervous at first because I saw some of the reviews and people are like, and there's a lot of stuff that needs fixed, especially when it first came out on Xbox.
Yeah.
I don't know how soon you played it after it came out, but supposedly at least on Xbox, they had fixed a bunch of stuff, and kind of like you and your brother do. My buddy Blake and I, we do the share the library thing. Mm-hmm. So he bought it. I'm like, well, I'll just fire it up. I have nothing to lose.
Sure.
And I just immediately got hooked. It's a beautiful game. I mean, I'm playing on my PS5, and I think it has or PS5 Pro, obviously PS5 Pro, so it has like a little bit of enhancement, and it's just, I mean, it's not like the most beautiful game I've ever played, like graphically, but like it looks good. I like the color choices. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something that draws me into it. I do like the story a lot. I like that it's It's not as deep as something like Baldur's Gate 3 that can be super overwhelming. Like it's very accessible. Probably basic in terms of like an RPG in terms of depth, but yeah, I mean, I'm really liking it. I like the story. I like the whole Dream Scourge thing. That would also be a sick band name.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, I'm having a blast with it. I'm not really sick of it or anything. I'm playing mainly as like a wizard. That's the class I'm going with. Um, but yeah, what was your experience with it?
So my main takeaway from Avowed was that I remember the story being pretty cool with the everyone's got the Dream Scourge thing, and then
Yes.
if you're like a godlike, you've got fucking mushrooms growing out of your face or something. I don't really understand what's going on with that, but I remember all that being kind of interesting, and I remember that the game played pretty well even on the Series S whenever it launched, because I played it like pretty much right after launch. And then I remember the combat, no matter what style you chose, the combat felt really good. And which is something that is left to be desired in a lot of the Elder Scrolls stuff, which this is modeled on, your Skyrims, your Oblivions, your Morrowinds, things like that. Because in those games, they have pretty, I don't want to say deep, but they have pretty good combat systems, but the feel of the combat is very... There is no feel, I guess I should say. Like whenever you're hitting somebody with a sword, like there's very little tactile feedback to it. And whether it's, audio or vibration or whatever, it's just... you just see sort of like a visual representation of the hit, and not even every time when you hit an enemy do they like visually react to you hitting them. So like I love everything about Skyrim probably more than Avowed, except for the combat. The combat in Avowed is so good, and we could argue about the main story too, because like the main story in Avowed I think is pretty interesting. Where the Elder Scrolls stuff shines is not typically in its main story, it's in all of its side content and all of its there's like all these factions that you can join, and they all have their own mini campaigns, and a lot of times all of those story arcs are way more interesting, way more impactful than whatever the main fucking story is. But I think the other thing is like with your Elder Scrolls stuff, it's a lot deeper from like a content perspective, right? They just drop you in this world, and it's like a billion square miles, and you're just like walking around, and you'll stumble on like a cave, and then it'll have like you go through this cave and you explore it, and there'll be some boss at the end with some cool like loot or something like that you don't have to do. And I think there's a little bit of that in Avowed. Like you do get a little bit of exploration, and there's a little bit of like branching and stuff, but I feel like it's like chopped up a little bit more. And I don't think that it's got that there are some areas that may at first seem a little bit overwhelming, but once you've sort of gone around and sort of explored them a little bit, you realize that they're not as like big and overwhelming and flooded with content to where you've got like analysis paralysis or something running around. And that's not a good or a bad thing. Not everybody wants the big thing when Skyrim came out is that it had 300 plus hours of content. Avowed does not have 300 hours of content. And not everybody wants a game that has that, because they're, like you said about being a completionist, a lot of people want to do everything that there is to do. And so if you set a game down in front of me that's got 300 hours worth of shit in it, I'm going to feel compelled to do everything that I come across, versus, something like Avowed, where it's like you can't conceivably do everything, and maybe you'll spend 60 hours with the game or 70 hours with a game, not 300 or 400 or 500. But outside of that, the thing that I would say is that my only real complaint with Avowed is and this is actually a little bit surprising for an Obsidian game, is that I don't care about literally any of the companion characters at all. And I don't mean that sounds a lot more harsh than I mean it, in that I don't think that they're bad. I'm not sitting here saying that, what's the first guy that you come across? It's like a lizard dude.
Kai,
yeah. He's not a bad character. He's voice acted really well. And even a lot of the characters that, you bring along with you, like, they're competent companions in terms of, like, combat and things like that. But so often, whenever I was playing it, I found myself just, like, not really caring from a story perspective, or from, I don't know, like a companion perspective. I didn't really care so much about these characters, but that might just be me. How do you feel about the companion characters? Like, is there any companion character where you're just like, oh man, this character is so awesome, I love their story, I love the way that they're written, like I have to have them with me all the time? Or are they more of like a game mechanic for you, where it's like they're my backup? Not necessarily like, oh, I can't wait for the next dialogue option with these guys.
I mean, I'd agree with you in a sense. I mean, I think they do an okay job to, like, if you want to care about them, you can. But like you're saying, it's like most of the time you can pick who you want. There's very few times you have to use a certain one. So it's like you could leave Kai or whatever at the party or at the camp and just never use them the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and I don't think there's really too many side missions with them specifically.
Right.
Maybe a little bit. I do kind of like I forget her name, and I just added her to my party. She's like pink and has like long pointy ears. She's just really funny. She says like Andra's titties and like something balls, and it just makes me laugh.
She's like kind of a vulgar character.
Yeah, just like she'll be like, you'll be talking and she'll be like, Andra's titties. And you're like, okay,
that's funny.
Yeah, but anyway, she's cool. But again, I feel connected to her and like want to know her story.
It's a nice. It's more. They're almost more of like an accessory than they are like like a real companion that you're invested in from a narrative perspective. And I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with that. It's the game is it's very down the middle. It's very competent. There's nothing about the game where I'm like, oh, this is bad or that is bad or whatever. I think people overhyped it when it was coming out. Like, everyone assumed that this was going to be Obsidian's answer to Skyrim. And it like, this is going to be like a light Skyrim with some really deep, heavy writing that Obsidian is known for. And I think the biggest complaint people have is that the game is very competent. It plays very well, and it is sort of like a Skyrim light, you could say, but it's not as narratively dense, I think, as people were expecting from an Obsidian game. But they have multiple teams, and who knows who did this and whatever. I'm not that plugged into Obsidian, but and to be clear, I keep trying to say like this game is competent, it is good, it's not bad, because I'm trying not to put out there that like this is a bad game or it's not worth playing. I definitely think for a lot of people this game is worth playing, and clearly it connects with a lot of people, and it connects with you at the very least from a main story and a gameplay perspective. So I'm glad to see that, because it almost was like shadow dropped on PS5. Like, it just kind of came out. There was no build up to it. It wasn't like, when they announced Gears on PS5 and it was like almost kind of like this thing. It was just one day it was like, oh yeah, Avowed's out. And I wonder how well it's doing on PlayStation, but it is kind of interesting that you're playing it, and I would like to see. Are you planning on seeing it through? I assume you are. You seem to like it.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with you. Like, I wouldn't want to hype it too much the other way. Like you're saying, where you're like, oh my God, everyone has to play this amazing game. Like, it's a solid game. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Is it for everyone? No. Is it like as good as Ghost of Yotei? Absolutely not. But like, I don't know. There are a couple things that do bother me. Like, sometimes it feels a little clunky, like when you're jumping on stuff. Like if you don't hit it just right, you'll like dash to the side and you're like, God damn it. Or another thing is, and this is particularly frustrating as a wizard, because I'm like, I have all these spells. Like half the battle, I'm like pushing L1 and I have the wheel, choices up, and you're like, okay, Kai, you do this. Okay, you do this. And then like 5 seconds later, okay, now you do, and it's just like kind of like breaks the immersion. And you can set some hotkeys, but it's like there's only so much room
on a controller.
And so
yeah,
it's kind of like that where you're like, that kind of ruins it a little bit. So
do you ever do
anyways,
do you ever use the I was really impressed with the wand combat. I thought it was really cool how you could use the wands as like a projectile weapon basically. And especially when you were like dual wielding them and stuff, it's really cool. Because I think when I played it, I did something similar. I think I did like a battle mage kind of build where I had, because they also do this thing that they don't do in the Elder Scrolls, which is you have like a quick change for your loadout that you can use in combat. I think it's like triangle or something. You hit it and it like switches from, you have two different weapon sets. And I would have one that was like a board and sword and shield kind of set, and then I'd flip it, and I would have, I think I had like a tome, like a book, and a wand that I would use. So depending on what situation I got myself in, like once I got the battle kind of moving, I could like step back a little and use sort of more of the magic. But or depending on the type of enemy, maybe it needs a little bit more face-to-face stuff. So yeah, like I said, I think that the combat is very good. And I hope for the next Elder Scrolls game, they sort of take that to heart a little bit, especially because they're both within the Xbox family. Maybe they share a little bit of information with one another to say, like, look, we need to, we've got everything else on lock. We just need to get better graphics, better combat, and the next Elder Scrolls game is going to be the best thing since sliced bread in this venue. Now, the last question I'll ask you about this before we move on to what I'm playing. Since you've been playing this, do you have any interest in going back to like a Skyrim or like an Oblivion remastered or something like that? Or is this just kind of like I'm just playing this because I had this opportunity and this specific game is interesting to me, but I'm not necessarily interested in living in this genre?
No, I mean, that's kind of tough to answer because like even before this game, I've wanted to play Skyrim and stuff, and those kind of games. I've never played any Elder Scroll game, at least not maybe like 5-10 hours of Skyrim. But so yeah, I wanted to. Has this game intrigued me to do that more? Yes. It's just so hard because there's just so much shit that's just constantly coming out to be like, oh, I want to go play this 150, 200 hour game. Right. It's like, yeah, I want to, but
yeah, and what I would be curious about, if you do decide to play it, I would love to pick your brain about it in the future, because it is very if you do decide to play it, I would advise that you remember, like, keep in your brain like the era in which this game was released, because it is going from something like Avowed to a Skyrim. It's going to feel super clunky, but there is still something just about it. Still has this. There's a lot of there's a reason why they keep re-releasing the fucking game. Let's just say that. Because it's got some like je ne sais quoi that like people just really respond to. And I don't know. It's very, very interesting. So you have to keep me in the loop on that. I mean, worst case scenario, in like, a few more years, you can just play the newest Elder Scrolls game and you can get an idea of what it's like to play a Bethesda RPG versus playing something like an Obsidian RPG, which is a little bit more streamlined. So something like an Oblivion remastered, if you decided to jump back into that, it's going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say cryptic, but it's a little bit more traditional RPG where it's like, I've got all of these stats and I'm adding points into it, and you've got weapons that break, and you've got, you have to deal with like carry capacity and all this stuff, which you probably still have to do carry capacity in Avowed, but it's like, these are the types of things where it's like, if you don't want to deal with that type of stuff when you're playing a video game, it might not be of interest to you. Okay, so we could just talk like a little bit about what I'm playing. I am playing. Actually, hold on 1 second. I gotta let my dog out because she's driving me nuts. Just give me like 5 seconds.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah. While Jake's gone, I'm going to talk about Avowed too, because I think the price point's a little bit lower. I think it's like $50 maybe, so it lowers the barrier to entry, and therefore I think makes it more desirable to play because it's not like a $70 game. So definitely that helps.
Okay, sorry about that. Which is really annoying because now that I open that door, we have a cat that likes to climb all over the desk whenever I'm using it. So this could be a little bit of a shit show. Calm down. It might have been a mistake. Anyway, so what I've been playing is I dove back into Sons of Sparta a little bit. I don't know if you've ever played or been that interested in like Metroidvania, like 2D Metroidvania style games. Like there are a lot out there. Obviously, the most famous one is Symphony of the Night from Castlevania. But even in like starting in like the PS4 generation, there was the game Axiom Verge, which is fucking amazing. But if you're not into like, do you like 2D games at all? Like, I know you grew up playing like SNES, but I just don't know if that's your jam anymore.
Not really.
Is it because you're just not attracted to them, or is it just because you prefer the more high budget stuff? Or both?
Yeah, I just don't think I like that style of game as much as I used to.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, I can totally understand that. Because I would say that I'm with you 75% of the time, but then it feels like every now and again I need like a palate cleanser kind of experience where it's just like I'm just running left and right and jumping and doing this, that, or whatever. So like, for example, whenever my wife and I were on vacation this past year, I installed an SNES emulator on my Steam Deck, and all I played while we were on vacation, while we were in the hotel, was I played Super Mario World on my Steam Deck, because it's just every now and again I just need to do something like that. But so I talked about it before, played Sons of Sparta. I started getting back into it a little bit, and it's not a bad game. I don't mind it, but there's something about it that is just pushing me away. And I don't know if it's just that there's other stuff I want to play or that I stepped away from it for too long. But it's this like 2D side-scrolly Metroidvania, pixel arty kind of 2.5D game. But the characters just do not stop fucking talking. It's so annoying. It's like have you ever played a Metroidvania? Where there's
not really.
So do you understand the concept? So generally in a Metroidvania game, it's like a 2D game. There are 3D versions, but we're gonna ignore those. Where there's like a map, and usually you're running around the map trying to get to the next area, and a lot of times you'll come to an area where you can't go to it because you need a specific item or ability, and so you'll have to go to another area or do something else until you get that item, and then you can come back to that area. Now that opens a new path, and it's very like, and a lot of them have like a world map where it's usually organized by like blocks. It's not always, but a lot of times it's organized by like blocks, and it's kind of like screens in a side scroller where you get to the edge of the screen and it makes a new screen, and you get to the edge of the screen and it makes a new screen, and those are all the blocks of the map, and you could pull it up, and a lot of times it'll show on the map the places you can and can't go, and some of them will say even, like I played one a couple years ago where it actually put a marker on the map that says that you can't go in this area until you get this item, which is very useful because a lot of these games, they don't tell you on the map that you can't get there without an item, so you just have to remember or write it down, and then when you get an item, you can go back there, blah, blah, blah. So in this game, it's like, now maybe I'm just early enough in the game that this is the problem, but it's like, I'll go 3 or 4 screens, which is like maybe 10 minutes of gameplay, and I'll meet up with my brother, and he'll talk to me for like fucking 30 seconds, and I can't skip any of the dialogue, even though I don't care about it at all. So I got to sit there and listen to him talk. And then after that's done, he'll run away, and I'll have to go, a few more screens later, and then I meet him again, and he's talking again, and I'm like, oh, yeah. So then it's like you do this over and over and over again, and it just becomes very annoying. But from a gameplay perspective, it's actually not bad. The combat, specifically the parrying, is a little bit clumsy because there's like a time delay to it, because you have to actually, so it's the enemy will attack and you have to block when they hit you, but it's not like you press the button when they're about to hit you. It's like you have to anticipate it, because it takes Kratos a minute to bring his shield around. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult at times to time that if you're not used to, and I'm not good at these types of games anyway, so it could be very challenging for me. But the other thing too is that like there's so much, like the enemy health bars and shit, there's so much stuff on the screen that sometimes it obscures the animation of the enemy hitting you, and so it's even more difficult to time it. So a lot of these little frustrations, I think the game is very competent. It's a decent Metroidvania, but a lot of these little things are just like, I just kind of want to play something else. So so what I ended up doing was I wasn't going to buy it right away, but I ended up buying Resident Evil Requiem, the new Resident Evil 9 game. And have you ever played a Resident Evil game or any of the new ones?
I have not. Like, how old is this one?
It literally came out last week.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So it is the newest. It is the newest one. And do you have an aversion to scary games? Some people do.
I don't really vibe with them.
Yeah. So, and I can get that. I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, you're such a, wimp because you don't like scary games or whatever. But it's just not for certain people. Like, for example, everyone talks about how awesome some of these games are in VR, and I'm just like, I just can't with the VR thing. Like, I could play Resident Evil in VR because I've played the game before, and they do a good enough job of like making it sort of ridiculous enough that it's not quite as spooky. But that's about the extent. Like, there are some of these other games that are straight up horror games that you can play in VR, and I'm just like, I'm out. I can't. It's too much. And so, but the Resident Evil, obviously, there's like a million of these games. I think there's like 20 Resident Evil games now. But as far as the mainline games go, this is the 9th one. And came out, like I said, last week. I think it was like February 27th or 26th or something like that was when it came out. And it's very good. I am really, really happy with it. It's really interesting because have you even seen like gameplay or anything of a Resident Evil game?
I have, yeah. My brother-in-law's super into them. In fact, I watched him play it on VR for a little bit. It looks awesome.
So, do you know which one it was? Because they did 3 of them in VR. They did 7, 8,
Village?
and 4 remake.
Village?
Okay, that's 8. So, they're and that game is fantastic in VR. I played Village. The only time I played Village, I played it all the way through in VR. That's the only Resident Evil game that I've played that I never played in, what you call it, flat screen mode or whatever you want to call it, normal without VR. But but that game, in addition to Resident Evil 7, were very unique in that they were first person. Now, they did add a third-person mode to Village later, but historically, Resident Evil games have been third-person. And so when they moved to first-person, it was a very divisive thing, but when they did it, everyone really kind of got on board with it. But then you go back to probably arguably, there are two Resident Evil games that everyone refers to when they talk about like the greatest Resident Evil games. There's Resident Evil 2, which they did a remake of in I think 2020 or 2021. It's on PS4. Or no, maybe it was before that. It might have been before that. I can't remember if it was PS4 or PS5. It's very good. But you play as two different characters. It's like Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield maybe. And at this police station in Raccoon City. And it's all third person. You're going through this police station. You're basically running around. It's kind of like I was describing with a Metroidvania, where there's all these light puzzles where you're like, get to a door and you can't get through it. So you've got to find the thing that helps you get through the door. But it's not like as deep or as wide or as broad as a Metroidvania. So it's usually relatively straightforward, where it's like, okay, well, if I just go to the only other area I can go in the mansion, I'm going to find the thing I need and like come back here and blah, blah, blah. But so Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 2, both of them, the male protagonist is Leon Kennedy, who was probably arguably the most famous protagonist in the series. And in this game, they brought Leon Kennedy back as one of the characters, but it's a dual protagonist game where you also play as this new character called Grace Ashcroft. And she's like an FBI agent. She's not like his Soldier of Fortune-esque like Leon Kennedy is. She's a little bit more timid, a little bit more scared. So what they did, which I think is really interesting, is they allow you to choose first or third person for the entire game. But by default, the way the developer intends you to play it is when you play the Leon Kennedy sections, it's a lot more action, a lot more run and gun. You play that in third person because he can do these like, melee kick attacks and like all this crazy shit and run around and be kind of violent in general. But when you play as Grace in her sections, it puts you in first person because they're way more traditional survival horror where it's like limited ammo. You're kind of sneaking around. Everything is a little bit more dark and kind of spooky. And it's a cool dynamic, and I'm really liking it so far. So I'm about, I don't know, I've got to be probably maybe halfway through the game at this point. They're not, the thing about the Resident Evil games is they're not long. They're usually 10 to 15 hours long. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to buy it, was it just like we were talking about earlier with these big games with like Skyrim and stuff like that, where it's just, every game you pick up now is 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 hours long. And it's like, because they just want to keep you engaged with the same game for a long period of time. And that doesn't take into account games like your Fortnites and your Call of Duties and your whatever, Apex Legends that are taking up a lot of people's time as well. So when I saw that this game was not only a Resident Evil game that was reviewing very well, but I saw that it was like 10 to 12 hours long, I was like, hell yes, sign me up. I could play this game. I could really enjoy it. And the nice thing about Resident Evil as well is that they're also replayable, where you could play it the first time, and yeah, you might be scared when you play it the first time, but the second time, you know everything that's going to happen. And so when you play it the second time, it's more about doing all of these challenges that they have, like beating it under a certain amount of time, beating it without using certain items, there's like collectibles in the game that you can run around and find. Like it is a very like, there's like story, and it's very spooky, and it's very, kind of linear in its gameplay, but they add like, they sprinkle all this shit on top of it to make it so that it's fun to just go back and play it a second, a third, a fourth time to kind of do all these different challenges and things. And you actually have to do that if you want to to get the platinum or whatever. But I'm really enjoying it so far. The new Grace character, I'm I think I like her. I'm a little bit undecided. She's a little bit like, they made her very, very scaredy cat, which is a little bit, I don't want to say frustrating, and it's not annoying, but it's a little just like, like whenever you're playing as her and you're in first person, and the whole time you're like walking around like all these dimly lit areas and it's all dark and spooky, she's like breathing hard and like whimpering the whole time. And it's like, okay, like I get it, you're scared, but like I don't need this to be impressed upon me for the entire time that I'm playing as you. And but that's like a very minor gripe. And her story, like her backstory, gives her license to be very scared in this situation. I mean, anyone would be scared in this situation, but like her specifically because of her backstory and stuff, which they go into in the game. I don't want to spoil it, but anyway, it's very good. I highly recommend it. If you ever find yourself interested in jumping into a Resident Evil game, I don't know, like I've played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9. So I've played all of them except for 6, and I haven't played any of the spin-off. They had these spin-off ones like Resident Evil. Resident Evil 0 isn't even necessarily a spin-off. It's just kind of like a prequel to the first one. And then there's like Code Veronica and all this other stuff. But I'm really enjoying what I'm playing so far. And I don't, even though I've played all of these games, I don't feel like it really matters which one you play first. Like, yeah, if you really want to get the legacy, maybe you should start with the first game, right? There's a PS4 port of like the GameCube remake of the first game that is actually pretty good, but it's less in your face, less action. It's more like isometric camera. You're running around and the camera doesn't move. You're like, it's almost like the gameplay is from a security camera and you're running around the room. And then when you go into a new room, it switches to a new camera in that room and you're like running around that room. And it's a lot more like puzzle and stuff. And it's like kind of tank controls where you kind of have to stop and pull up your gun and like aim and shoot. So it's a little more archaic. Once you get to, if you play like 2 remake, 3 remake, 4 remake, even like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're a lot more modern controls. And but it is something where it's like, I think that they're great, but they're not for everybody. So just something to think about if you ever decide that you're interested in that. Now, I will say, if you're one of these people that isn't really into gore in video games, you're probably not going to like them, because it's like, specifically 9, because it's like the newest technology, the newest game, the best and the brightest of everything. There's a lot of like exploding corpses and shit like that. It's very like, and it's actually really impressive from a technical perspective when you're like, you walk into a room and there's a zombie and you shoot it in the head, and like behind him, like blood just splatters all over the wall from where you shot him. And then it's like, when you come back to that room later, like there's still blood on the wall from where, and then like the zombie's corpse is still on the ground there. And it's so like, not to toot my own inner sociopath or whatever, but like it's very cool from whenever you play a game from a technical perspective, when you see sort of these types of things and how they're, the vessel of what they're doing is the gore, but it's cool to see like, oh, they were able to make a game where this type of stuff is permanent and it doesn't like impact the game at all. So anyway, that said, the last thing that I am playing is Sarah and I are still playing Baldur's Gate 3. Did you play Baldur's Gate 3? I know you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, so funny thing about that, I bought it like soon after it came out, and I tried to play it, and I was just like, dude, this is way too much.
It's too deep for you?
Like, yeah, but then like 2 months ago, my cousin Josh and my buddy Blake were like, let's play together, and they have both played it through multiple times. So anyways, until I started playing Avowed, I was probably playing with them at least once a week.
Yeah.
And I was having a lot of fun, but they knew what to do, so they could help me.
Yeah, so
but how are you liking it? Yeah.
So I actually really enjoy it. One of the things that I will say that's a little frustrating is we're playing couch co-op. And as you can imagine, you've got two characters running around, and the camera gets a little bit wonky. And I think even when you're by yourself, the camera can be a little bit wonky in terms of like it colliding with the environment and things like that. But we're really enjoying it. But like you did already mention, it is a lot. There is a lot going on in the game. There is a lot to the character construction. There is a lot to what you are and are not allowed to do. You pretty much can do whatever you want in the game. And to somewhat of a detriment, like I think I mentioned in the podcast previously, maybe even last week or something, where it's like I'm in a battle and I ask my character, I think I'm asking my character to move to like this specific area, and she ends up just like shooting a fucking arrow at the ground. It's like, why would I ever want to do that? But the game lets you do it. And is it on purpose? I guess maybe it could be, because there's a lot of environmental factors in combat that you can use. You can shoot braziers, you can shoot, I don't know, you can shoot water puddles if you've got like electric arrows and stuff like that. And it's really interesting to play a game where it truly is kind of like an anything goes sort of game. And I think they do a really good job. They do as good of a job as you can imagine someone doing, packaging that in a way that is accessible in a video game. So like when you're talking about playing Dungeons and Dragons, you're just saying the shit you want to do. And the dungeon master is telling you what dice you need to roll if you need to roll dice. But generally, it's very freeform, very do whatever you want, because you're just making shit up with your imagination. How do you put that in a video game and have the video game react in a way that you would expect it to when you're just making shit up? And it does a really good job of doing that, but it is mechanically very dense. So we're constantly they got those tooltip menus where it's just like you're pulling it up. You got like an ability and it's like, oh, it's an agility check or whatever, and you have a chance of casting this thing or whatever, and you pull up the tooltips and it's like 5 different fucking descriptions of like all the different things that thing means. And even then, sometimes it can be very confusing about how that actually corresponds to real life gameplay. So like the example I think I used in the podcast last week was we have a character that has this like acid cloud ability. And when you pull that ability up in combat, it puts this ring around him. And you're like, oh, well, it makes it seem like visually that I just cast it and he's just casting it in this area of effect around himself. Mm-hmm. Where really what it is that is the ring of his range. And so you have to still select a character. So what I did was I was like, oh, that's cool. I put the ring so it hit 2 people, and then I just kind of cast it in the middle, and he just fucking shot it into the ether. It didn't like hit anybody because I didn't the game. Once I understood, I was like, oh, this makes sense. But I think that there's maybe you agree with me. For you, having somebody to play with probably helped a lot, because if I wanted the game to explain all of these things to me, the tutorial of this game would be fucking 30 hours long. And yes. So it makes sense that it's like, okay, let's just trial and error this. It is what it is. We're playing it on the easiest difficulty because it's like, I'm just doing this to have fun with my wife and like enjoy. And she's not really a gamer. She just likes the story and she likes building the characters and making the choices and all that stuff. So that does give us a little bit of flexibility to make these types of mistakes. But I imagine when you played it with your buddies, it was a lot easier for you to be like, what does this mean? What does this mean? How do I do this? What's going on? Because I kind of wish we had something like that, because it does probably mitigate a lot of frustration.
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, do this," and you're like, "Wait, you can do that?" Like, I'm
Yeah.
playing as like a berserker, and I can like throw stuff, and they're like, "Throw the enemy." I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean?"
Yeah.
Like, literally
Yeah.
pick him
Yeah.
up and throw him. I'm like, "Oh, I never would have guessed." I have a question for you about. We can do Baldur's Gate 3, but it's kind of in general. When you play these games and you're making choices, do you go the like the compassionate route or like the upstanding route, or do you go devious?
More often than not, I'm more of like to use Mass Effect terms, I pick more of a paragon than a renegade kind of thing, because it's one of those things where I could see myself, and I have done in the past, where on like a second playthrough I'll just be a total jagoff the whole time I'm playing it, just because I want to see what happens. But typically the only time when I'm making these decisions and I'm a dick in the game, it's typically because the character that I'm interacting with, I don't give a shit about. And
Okay.
yeah, so like, for example, I, at least in the early game, uh, Shadowheart is incredibly annoying. And just for, like, she's just very like, she's just like a bitch about everything, right? And so, other than the fact that you saved her from this ship, she just doesn't like, she's very standoffish and whatever. And maybe her character grows like later on in the game, but I'm just like, I don't care about you. And so like, she'll like try to engage me in conversation, and I just like kind of flip her off and like go off and do it. I mean, I'm the type of person that I'll exhaust all of my, like, the conversations that are available to me. I'll make sure that I do that, but I'm not going out of my way to like engage her deeper in conversation, or do things like trying to seduce her or something like that, to be, whatever. But yeah, generally I typically try to be more positive, specifically with the companion characters, because a lot of times I want to make sure that I get everything I can out of all of the companion characters. And I know a lot of times in games like this, a companion could literally just leave and you'll never see them again. And it's like, I don't want to miss out on something because I just wanted to be a dick to this character. I'll be a dick to NPCs that I don't give a shit about. Especially if you're encountering an NPC that, like, I don't know if you remember, like, relatively early on in the game, you go to this, like, druid village, and there's, like, the head honcho is missing, and you meet, like, the person who decided she's in charge now, and she's just a total douche to, like, everybody. And she's, like, trying to kill this little kid and, like, all this stuff because, like, I don't know. But anyway, my wife and I were just like, fuck this bitch. Like, we're just gonna like basically do everything we can to bypass her rule of power and bring this other guy back and make sure that, because she's just being a total jagoff. But I don't want to say that, like, I don't typically play that role with companion characters, I guess I should say. Like, how do you play those things? I mean, are you relatively companionable, or do you find yourself enjoying the darker aspects of these decisions?
No, I'm always like upstanding pretty much. Although I do what you do. Like sometimes if it's just a one-off, I'm just like, fuck this person for whatever. But it's funny because we joke about Shadowheart the same way. We're always like, you dumbass. Like, what are you doing? You're annoying.
Yeah.
Like, it was funny. We didn't care for her character either. But yeah, no, normally I do like upstanding stuff.
Yeah, Shadowhearts is, so when you play, how many people do you guys, when you were playing, how many would you have at the same time?
Well, there was 3 humans and then 1 companion.
Okay, so because if I'm not mistaken, you can have 4 of you in a party, and the like, basically, if you've got 4 human people, there are no companions. If there's 3, you can have 1. If there's 2, you can have
Right.
2. Do you know this? Maybe this is something that you don't know, but is it possible to join a game with a character that was not rolled for that game, or do you have to start a new game with new characters if you're doing a co-op kind of thing? Because, like, for example,
I don't know.
Sarah and I started this campaign. She joined right away. I made a character, she made a character, we started the game. If she doesn't join the game, her character is still in my game. And she only controls it whenever she jumps in. It, like, switches to her, and she's able to run around or whatever. But if she wanted to make, like, I'm just curious, if she wanted to make a different character because she doesn't like the character that she has, could she make a new character and have that join the game that we have? Or is it that it's like, no, you would have to start a new campaign to be able to do that? I don't know if you know,
I don't know
that or not, but
I would assume you could make a new one, but that's just because of how free it is. But that's just a guess.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. But then it's like, if her old character is still in my game, like, does it just become a dumping ground of characters? You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea.
Maybe.
So I don't know. It's something maybe I'll have to, like, I don't know, ask fucking ChatGPT or something about that. But cool. I'm glad. I didn't know you played that. That's awesome, because I don't know anyone else that's played it. My brother played it a little bit whenever he got, like, I think he has PS Plus Premium, and I think it had, like, a 4 or 5 hour trial. And he was like, after 4 hours, like, I still haven't even started the game. So it's like,
Fair.
This trial didn't really, tell me a whole lot. And he's not wrong. I mean, I feel like we literally just started the game and we're like 20 hours into it. So, yes. And I think that, like, if you want to beat the whole thing, it's like 80 to 100 hours typically. And it might take us even longer because you got two people making decisions and blah, blah, blah. The one thing I will think is, I do think it's cool, and it's probably even easier the way that you do it with your buddies online, is that in battle, if all three of you have initiative together, you can all do your combat turns simultaneously, which is very cool. Now, sometimes it doesn't make sense. You want somebody to do a thing before you do a thing and blah, blah, blah. But even the way that we play it, if you force split screen, we can both take our turns at the same time if our characters are in the same, like, right next to each other with initiative. And but more often than not, we just leave it on one screen, just because visually it's a lot more enjoyable than having the split screen forced. Because the game also doesn't run as well whenever you're forcing split screen, because it's got to render the whole game twice. So the frame rate kind of drops a little bit, which is a tad frustrating, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, more often than not, we're right near each other running around, so it never forces split screen or anything. But yeah, we're having a good time with it. So
good.
I'll have to touch back with you and let you know how it goes. I don't know.
Sure.
Did you guys beat it?
No, we're not even close.
Do you know? Because have you even gotten past Act 1 yet? Do you know?
I want to say yes, but if we did, barely.
Okay, because we're still, like I said, we're like 20 hours in. We're still within Act 1. And I think we're, like, kind of heading towards, like, maybe, like, the main quest that, like, gets you towards the end of Act 1. I don't know. But like I said, sometimes you'll get into these battles where it's like the battles take a long time because of,
yes,
depending on how many enemies there are. Like, there's that, or when you go to save that druid guy, you go to that goblin encampment and or whatever. And if you choose to follow him, he just wants to fucking kill everybody. And so we chose to do that. And it's like, oh, you've got to get out of the goblin encampment. But there's, no joke, like 50 goblins of varying, whatevers, different, sizes, attack styles, whatever. And so, and we also found one of the things that is frustrating, and then I promise we'll move on from Baldur's Gate. But one of the things I found frustrating is we were doing the goblin encampment. We finished basically killing everybody inside. Satisfied this druid dude. He's like, I'll meet you back at my house. And we're like, cool. And so I did this thing where it's like all of the enemies except for one that was way far away from us were killed. So it's like, well, there's nobody around. Let's just flee combat, and then then we can just kind of go about our business. And when I hit flee combat, it literally teleported just my character all the way across the map.
Ugh.
And Sarah's character was still in the fucking stronghold with the goblins, and she had no option to do that. And she couldn't. And so I'm like, well, that sucks, right? So I was like, and then I was like, well, just teleport, just fast travel to where I'm at. Well, she can't fast travel because she's inside of a building, which I think video games do this, and it pisses me the fuck off because it makes no sense. Fast travel already doesn't make sense. Why are you trying to make me go outside before I fast travel? All these games, Skyrim, Avowed, all of them do it. I have no idea why, but it's something that just drives me nuts. And so she's like, I can't fast travel. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess you just got to walk outside. And then once you walk outside, fast travel. So she's like, all right. She walks out the door. There's literally 30 goblins just fucking chilling there. And it instantly drops her into combat. And I'm being facetious. I think there was like 15 of them. And which is still a shitload for one person to take on. And so I was like, hold on, it's turn-based, just don't make any moves. I can teleport into the there's a fast travel point in the goblin encampment. I could teleport into the goblin encampment and then help you try to fight these bad guys. It's just like frustrating where it's like the game, this is just one of those things where the game is amazing, but because it's so deep, it doesn't communicate what's going to happen in these types of scenarios to you very well. Like I guess maybe I should know now at this point that because we killed everyone inside of this building, that if she goes outside of this building, that if there's anybody outside, they're all going to try to attack her. But there have been other instances where, like before that, where we went into a little town that had goblins in it, and we got into a fight, killed some of the goblins, but all the other goblins in the town are still totally chill with us being there. So it's like, how do I navigate these things? But anyway, we've been talking.
Are you playing with any mods?
No. It is interesting. You do say that. It is interesting that there are so many mods that are available on PlayStation. I was like completely flummoxed by this because typically mods are a PC only thing, right? But you can do it on console. And so, do you have any mods that you suggest? Because other than the ones that are like making all of your characters practically naked, because that's the first mod that everybody makes.
Well, the one mod we put on was, Withers, like the sarcophagus, like, dude, there's one where you could give them big boobs.
Oh, that's fucking funny.
It's just so,
it's just ridiculous.
Funny. Yeah. It's not super lewd, as you might expect. It's just funny. I don't even know. We're playing with quite a bit of mods. I know we're cheating one way by we got rid of the carrying capacity because it's just the game's long enough as it is.
It's annoying.
Let's just not fucking worry about that. Yeah, and then I don't know. He probably put a dozen on there, and I don't even remember. I know one he did. I'm not using anything from it. There's Star Wars weapons and gear.
Oh, that's funny.
That you can use. I'm not using any of that stuff. But anyways, yeah. I like you, I was like, there's mods on the PS5, but
yeah, it's I'll have to look into that because I did pull up the mod list and before we started playing, and I was just like, Sarah and I were just looking at them. I was like, before I even clicked on the mod list, I was like, how many of these do you think are either practically naked outfits for all of the characters, adding boobs to certain characters, giving characters bigger junk? It's just it's so fucking funny that's the thing that always happens. And I mean, it's already hilarious that in the game when you create your character, it lets you decide like what junk you want your character to have and how big it is,
Yes.
and whether you have pubic hair and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, is this relevant? I mean, Cyberpunk did the same thing. It's like, is this relevant? It's like, no, but it is kind of funny. So
Yes.
it is interesting. So, all right, well, that was basically a very long, hour and a half long intro to the podcast.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. We don't have to. I'll be honest with you, and we've discussed this in the podcast previously. When it comes to the news, there's a lot more shit out there than we talk about on the podcast. But we learned a long time ago that the podcast goes way more smoothly if we talk about things that are even remotely interesting. If we're just reporting like sales numbers and shit like that, unless it's some really crazy outlier that is actually worth talking about, it's not something that we really jive with too much. So we don't have to dangle on any of these news points for any period of time, specifically because, I don't know how much you follow the industry directly, how much you even know about a lot of this stuff. Do you keep up to date with the video game news? Do you watch all of the the state of plays and stuff like that, or are you more casual about it and just kind of do your own thing?
No, I definitely keep up with it. I watch state of plays. Like, normally I just get news from Push Square and Reddit.
Yeah.
I gave up Reddit for Lent, so I don't have that. But Push Square, has everything. So I go there once or twice a day. Yeah, I keep up with it.
Maybe you could make that Lent sacrifice permanent. Sounds like most people probably would do a little bit better not looking at Reddit. To be fair, depends on the Reddit, the subreddit that you're looking at. But Reddit's interesting because it is something that I have never used. And and it's like huge. Everybody uses it. And it's something that I don't want to say that I don't understand it, because there's not much to understand about Reddit. But it's like, I don't understand it conceptually. It's just a forum. You know what I mean? It's not, obviously it's a little bit more free flowing than a forum is. There are moderators and stuff, but it's not like, it's more of just like a stream of consciousness that people just kind of like add their thoughts and stuff onto. But there are some really good, it's strange. It's kind of like Twitter, I guess, where it's like, there's a lot of Reddits that you go to that are really useful and really informative. But there are other ones that you go to where it's just like, this is what's wrong with humanity. And 100%. So like, I don't know which aspects of Reddit that you take part in, but I assume it's probably more of the I hate to say valid aspects of Reddit, but
I don't get into any of the weird stuff.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, then we'll just kind of bang through these news points, and you can kind of give me your thoughts on them. The first one, and you do have access to the news, right? So the first one, and I didn't put these in any particular order, so some of these might be more important than others. Who knows? Who cares? But the first one here is that the promising spiritual successor to Yakuza, titled Gang of Dragon, looks like it might be in trouble of cancellation. Sources say that the publisher behind the project, NetEase, appears to be walking away. It is rumored that a request for additional funds may be the reason. I don't know if you, and this is coming from an article on Push Square, you'll notice that we get, like Fred has mentioned in the past, we get a lot of our stuff from Push Square because they're easy to navigate. They're not like, I don't know if you've tried to use IGN recently, but the website is absolutely fucking atrocious. And I don't understand how anybody even... Websites in general are an absolute travesty nowadays, but specifically IGN, it's like, what am I looking at? I go to news and it's just like 50 trailers. Like, are there no articles anymore? Is there no, like, you know what I mean? It's very strange. So Push Square, even though it's it's in the United Kingdom, it's not in the United States, so it's very British in its perspective, but they do a good job over there. But I also look at like Video Games Chronicle and Gamatsu and IGN and some other stuff. But a lot of these websites are just aggregators anyway. So it's like, I go to Push Square, it's got all these articles. I go to IGN or Video Games Chronicles, it's got all the same fucking things. Yeah, it's written by different people, but it's got all the same major news points. Gamatsu is a little bit different because it's focused on Japan stuff, so sometimes there's some interesting shit on there. But anyway, so this game was announced. I don't remember if it was at the Video Game Awards or if it was a previous State of Play, but it's got that one Chinese actor that's playing the main character. He's kind of like a big dude. He's in he plays the detective in the Netflix rendition of The Three Body Problem. And it's just him just beating the shit out of people. And it looked really fucking cool. But it seems like the project, I mean, despite of the fact that people are really excited about it, it seems like it might be in trouble. I don't know. Do you know anything about this project, or did you have any interest? Do you even care about Yakuza? Because I don't, but I thought that this looked pretty interesting.
No, I don't. I've never played a Yakuza.
Interesting. So, I don't know. I mean, the rumor that I was reading, it was on Push Square, or maybe like one of the sources that it got this information from, said that the developer might need an additional like $44 million or something to finish this project, and that's why NetEase was a little bit hesitant to, like, they might just cancel the project or walk away from it and force the studio to get additional funding. But I don't know. It's like one of these things where you hate to see a game get canceled, especially something like this where it's like, I've never really been interested in getting into Yakuza because it seems like a lot. But this was something where it's like, it's a new IP, it's a new thing. I don't know. I might be into it. Reminded me a lot. The trailer reminded me a lot. Did you ever play? Oh, you weren't around in the PS3 generation, so you probably never played Sleeping Dogs. Which is like a GTA style game, but it took place in, it was either China or Japan. And the main character, literally, like, a lot of the combat was him just beating the shit out of people with his hands. Like, you did get guns and stuff, but the combat was very like melee focused, and it was really cool. So anyway, moving on. Just kind of a quick news point here. The artist behind the material that was stolen by Bungie for Marathon seems to have been credited as a visual design consultant in the game, which is kind of cool because we know that there was a big thing going on where I think the Anti-Real is the name of the artist. They came out and said, hey, look, a lot of this, I think it was after the first playtest, they came out and said, hey, look, a lot of the shit that you're using is stuff that I made, and I didn't give you permission. And there's this whole art audit within Bungie and blah, 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 blah. And there was a private kind of thing between Anti-Real and Bungie to try and settle this. And Anti-Real came out a little while ago and said that it was resolved to her satisfaction. I don't remember if it's a man or a woman. My apologies. Their satisfaction. And it seems like apparently part of that is them getting a credit in the game, which is cool. And LJ, I don't know if you have any thoughts on the art debacle per se, but I was mostly curious, and I wanted to put this in here because I was curious if you had any interest in or thoughts on the game Marathon, because it did come out this weekend, and there was a free playtest last weekend. I didn't put it in my my what are we playing section, but I did do like the tutorial mission, and I was able to play like one mission before the thing got locked out. So I have no comments on whether the game is good or bad. It is an extraction shooter, so the genre of the game is inherently not for me, but I traditionally love all of the shooters that Bungie have made just because they feel really good, they look really cool, they play really well. I've mentioned on the podcast before how much I love the visual aesthetic of Marathon. With all of like the neon, like the character designs are really cool and unique. But where are you at on this game? And do you have any thoughts on it?
I mean, I did exactly what you did. I did the tutorial and I played one match. I wanted to play more, I just didn't have time.
Yeah.
I'm not like jumping to play it, but I will say I was not necessarily a hater, but I was kind of like, I don't know about this. The looks, I don't know if this is for me. Mm. And when I played it, I thought it was way better than my expectations were. I'd like to try it again sometime, but I'd have to
not for $40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. And maybe they'll do, like, there might be a sale at some point. Like, it's one of these, because it's a Bungie game, if there was a sale and it's like $10, I'd probably just buy it just to try it out. Because like I said, I love Bungie. And I can see, like, if you played the tutorial, there's like the robots you fight and everything. They could easily make a single player or a PvE kind of component to this game that would bring even more people in than just like the hardcore extraction guys. So, did you play a lot of Arc Raiders?
An ass load.
Okay, so you were playing a lot with Fred and stuff.
I still do play a little bit, yeah.
So, Arc Raiders, and I've mentioned this on the podcast ad nauseum, so we don't need to get into it. I thought the aesthetic of Arc Raiders was really cool, and I thought the game played relatively well. But there's just a couple of things that just don't jive with me on these types of games. One is that I don't like the gambling aspect of the gameplay, where basically when you go, you're gambling with the stuff that you found. And the only way for you to get over that is to basically accept that none of the equipment that you take in with you say, like, I don't own this. It's like a rental, because you might just get fucking murdered by some guy and it's gone forever. So, that's something that I struggle with. And the other thing is that Arc Raiders, probably even more of a problem for me with Arc Raiders, is that literally like 40% of your gameplay time is inventory management. And going in menus and going and talking to freaking people at the home base and upgrading your crafting, upgrading your little hole. And it's just that whole aspect of it doesn't really do it for me. If it was, so this is where Marathon is a little bit more intriguing to me from an extraction shooter perspective. Yes, it does theoretically have a lot of those trappings, but it seems, at least from the fucking 20 minutes of the game or half hour of the game that I've played, it seems like it has the potential maybe to be a little bit more gameplay focused and a little bit less menu inventory focused, because it's basically like you have the contracts and I just use this material that I got to upgrade this character or whatever. But I could be completely wrong with that. But it was just like when I first jumped, I only played maybe half a dozen matches on Arc Raiders, but it's very overwhelming to jump in, and it's like everything that you come across, I don't know if I need this. I don't know if it's important.
Right.
I'm just grabbing it. I'm picking up cat beds and broken bottles and freaking, cat, like kitty litter. And over here is like rusty scrap. And it's like, what is all this shit? I have no idea. I'm just grabbing it all and I'm trying to get out with it. And then apparently those items allow you to craft things or whatever. And, that on top of the extraction, the more the PvP part of it, less the PvE part of it. Because this was something that was a problem with me when we first got Grand Theft Auto Online. That came out right after, a month or so after Grand Theft Auto 5. And Fred and I played it a little bit because I was like, this was super novel at the time. This type of game didn't exist. So it's like, oh, Grand Theft Auto, but it's online? That sounds great. I fell off of it in like a week because the whole everything just came about. The entire point of the game was just everybody just fucking cheap shotting each other. Was basically the whole culture around the game. And I know that in the early days of our creators, there was a lot more camaraderie, a lot more like, hey, bro, I'm just doing my thing and everything. But it seems like as the game sort of developed, it has sort of devolved a little bit into that every man for itself kind of atmosphere. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right or anything. It's just something that's not necessarily for me. I would rather just play a straight up PvP game than play a game where I have to worry about whether or not somebody's lying to my face and then shoots me in the back. And I get some people love that aspect of it. Some people hate that aspect of it. I just happen to be on the latter. But Marathon, mainly less because it's, you know, its differences from Arc Raiders and its extraction shooter component, but more from its first-person shooter gameplay Bungie perspective has me a little bit more interested. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But so you do still play Arc Raiders then?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't in a couple weeks because of Avowed, but I'll definitely be playing it again. Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, I envy I envy people that are able to do like that have games where they get together with friends and they play them and they do all this stuff together. And Arc Raiders seems like one of those games where it's almost like Helldivers as well, where it's like bond building in a way. Because you guys you're going into something together and you're trying to get out together. And it's all about helping keep each other alive in this totally fucking crazy situation. And I think that's really cool. It's just something that I struggle with personally. But yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that you
ever change your mind, you got a crew.
I know, but to be honest with you, then there's like a second layer to it, which is my issue with multiplayer gaming in general, is that I typically do not play video games because I want to socialize. If that makes any sense. I'm usually playing games because I want to do my own thing and I'm like in my own hole. Like me playing with my wife Baldur's Gate 3 is even sort of out of the ordinary. Because more often than not, it's just like I like going at my own pace. My prime gameplay time is first thing in the morning. Most people are not playing multiplayer games first thing in the morning. So usually in the evenings, I'm doing something with my wife, or we're having dinner, or we're watching a movie, or doing whatever. So for me to play a multiplayer game, it's like I've got to schedule this now. And then it becomes more of a, I don't want to say a burden, but you kind of get where I'm going with it. Yeah. Where it becomes more of like now this is another thing on my plate. And
especially at our age, because you got so much going on.
Right. And that is 100% a me problem. I just mentioned, I totally envy the people that are really into multiplayer games and they do it all the time. And maybe if my wife and I ever get divorced, I'll be the biggest multiplayer gamer on the planet. but
let's hope that's not the reason you become.
Yeah, let's hope that's not the reason. But anywho, so moving on here. This is kind of an interesting news point. So there was a recent report from psprices.com. This was reported a while ago. I think it was maybe in the fall or early, like before the end of the year, where they were talking about how there was some indication that Sony was doing dynamic pricing on the PSN, where certain people were paying more for, in the same region, for the same game, certain people were paying more or less for the same game. And it kind of created a little bit of an eyebrow raise from the community, but it didn't really get a lot farther than that. And it seems like, according to this recent report, that is actually happening. They are doing some kind of a study or something on this, and it is expanding. And as of right now, it includes up to like around 150 games, and some purchasers are getting up to 17.6% off on video games that other people are not getting the same discount on. And I kind of wanted to just bounce this off you and see how you feel about this, because this makes me feel really icky, depending on how it's presented. So for me, I'm of two minds of this. One is that who are they going to make pay more for games? Is it going to be the people that they're trying to get in that don't play very many video games? Or is it going to be the people that are loyal that spend the most money on them? The cynic in me tends to believe that me being probably in the top, let's say 5 to 10%, probably in the top 5% of engagement with video gaming and gaming on PSN, I'm probably going to end up paying more because I'm already on the hook. I'm already invested. This is my hobby. I'm going to do it. Whereas they're going to give the discount to somebody who's not already on the hook, who's maybe putting a toe in and they're trying to egg them on a little bit. But that's my cynical view of it. And it does make sense from a business perspective. But from a consumer perspective, I would hope that it's like, look, I spend hundreds of dollars a year on your platform. Shouldn't I get some sort of a kickback for that? You know what I mean? If you are giving kickbacks, should I not be eligible given that I'm spending way more than the average gamer on your storefront? What is your take on this? And do you have any thoughts about it?
I'm pretty much in the same boat, except I'm way more of a cynic. I hate corporate greed. And look, I love Sony. I'm a PlayStation fanboy. At the same time, I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, they're completely noble in everything they do. Dynamic pricing, whether it's video games or anything else, is bullshit to me. And it's just another way to like maximize profits. And it's just like, fuck that kind of shit. I don't even care. Like, of course, I think it could be used for good. Like you're saying, like, hey, let's give, Tom, who only hops on his PlayStation once every other week, let's give him a little extra discount to get him to play more. It's like, if it was genuine in that way, cool. It's not going to be used that way. Yeah. They're going to like look at the data, see who they can get more money out of, and for that reason, I just not a fan. Just leave it like a sale price. Everyone pays the same price.
What I'll be curious about is if it's like, I don't know if you've like if you've heard about this, but there's the whole like the government is suing Ticketmaster right now, and there's this whole thing going on about Ticketmaster having a monopoly on concert tickets, and how they do dynamic pricing and all of their fees and everything. And it's like, it's a joke whenever you go to buy a concert ticket and it's like $100 and then you go to check out and it's $175 and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And it's like, oh, there's a $35 service fee, and then there's a $15 transaction fee, and there's a $20 I don't know, venue fee, and blah 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 plus tax. And it's like, so they started doing this all-in pricing thing where it still includes all that shit. It's just whenever you look at the ticket, the price is just has all the shit included. So now, because of all of this stuff, I don't know, do you go to a lot of concerts still?
An unbelievable amount of concerts.
Okay.
But I've the past, starting in 2025, I really made it an effort to not go to Ticketmaster. So concerts. So unless it's really, really good, I mean, I maybe go to 2 of those a year. Most of the time it's not through Ticketmaster.
So I have the unfortunate issue where we live, and where we're from, there are no shows that are nearby, right? So
which is crazy, because in the old days it was insane. Right. Like I tell people who came through our town or like Edinburgh, and it's like, My Chemical Romance played there. Yeah,
it's crazy, right? So it's so nowadays it's like I'm going to Pittsburgh, I'm going to Cleveland. Occasionally someone might play in Erie, which is like, maybe half hour to an hour away, depending on where you're at around here. And the unfortunate thing is that I'm not going to make that commute unless it's something that I either have a very limited opportunity to see them, or I've never seen them before, or what is a big thing with me is most of my favorite musicians are old as fuck, and I might never see them get ever again. Almost all of those instances they end up being Ticketmaster shows, because it's at, whatever. It's like, oh, I want to go see Iron Maiden in concert. Well, it's like, yeah, that's not going through anybody but Ticketmaster. I want to go see Eric Clapton in concert. That's not going through anybody but Ticketmaster or somebody, some equivalent. And because of that, like, for example, Sarah and I went to see Ghost last year in Pittsburgh at the in Pittsburgh where the Pitt Panthers play basketball. I think it's like the Peterson Event Center. And it was like, it's like, dude, we literally can't go to a concert anymore for less than like $200 a ticket, which is insane. When we were kids, you could go to shows for like good, relatively big name bands for $30, and now $20-$30, and now it's like I'm going to see Coheed and Cambria, and the ticket's $150 to go to freaking Stage AE in Pittsburgh. Now, granted, Sarah and I are a little bougie in our older age, where we like to make sure we get a ticket where we're able to sit down and stuff like that. So we're usually not buying GA tickets or anything. But anyway, this is all like a very, very like diatribe, diversion from the topic of what Ticketmaster does, which I have always thought is absolutely heinous, is that when a concert or a sporting event or something is very popular or selling fast, they jack the prices up of all the tickets. And they just do this automatically. And I've always found that to be unsavory at best. It would be one thing if, like you said, if the tickets weren't selling very well and they dropped the price to try to get people to buy tickets. That I can understand, because you got to make whatever money you can. But for you to be like, 5 people want this one ticket, so I'm going to increase the price by 5. And whoever's willing to pay for it is going to pay me 5 times as much. And it's the same issue I have with all this RAM shortages and this component pricing and stuff. It's like, that stick of RAM doesn't cost 5 times as much. It's just that more people want it, so you've jacked up the price because the demand is higher. It still costs you the same amount of money to make it. Your margins are just way better now. And for the most part, I'm on board with capitalism. I think it needs to be regulated in some capacities, and this is one of those capacities. Generally, I think capitalism is the best way to go. But you can't be having a company that is, worth $300 billion being like, oh, sorry, a bunch of people want your RAM, so you've got to pay, a huge premium on it. Or, oh, sorry, Sony's case. It's like, oh, sorry, turns out Uncharted is really popular. So now you have to pay $80 for the next Uncharted game, not $70 for the next Uncharted game. It just seems gross to me. But, like you said, if it is used in a more, I hate to say altruistic, but like if it's used in a more a kosher way where it's just lowering prices to get people in, I don't really have a problem with it.
Right. Well, and the worst thing about Ticketmaster, sorry to berate this point, but like they do the dynamic pricing and they say it's like to protect us, because they're like, well, scalpers will, it's like, will come in and get it. And it's like, okay, at the end of the day, I'm gonna pay the same elevated price. It's just you're keeping the money now, not the like I hate scalpers too. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But it's like you're not really fixing the problem. You're just getting the money that we would have had to give scalpers.
And you know how you keep scalpers from buying your tickets? You limit how many they can buy. Problem solved. You don't let someone buy 40 fucking tickets to the Alice Cooper concert. You let them buy like 2. And they also started doing this thing. So like, you know, I'm a big hockey fan, so I don't go as often as we used to go to Penguins games all the time, but I just can't be bought, like the drive and the getting back late and stuff. It's too much for me now. So I usually only go to 1 or 2 games a year now, but they started doing this shit now where it's like, they won't let you buy just 1 ticket if it leaves an empty seat. So like, for example, if there's only 2 tickets left in a row and they're right beside each other, you are not allowed to buy just one of them and leave that other single by itself, which I guess makes a certain amount of sense from they're not going to be able to sell. They're going to have a much harder time selling that other single ticket. But at the same time, it's like, I just want to buy a ticket to the fucking concert. Sell it to me or not. I'm not buying 2 tickets. So it's very bizarre. So I am curious how that's going to play out and whether or not the issue with Ticketmaster is going to trickle down to some of these other companies that do similar practices, and it still remains to be seen whether or not this is related in any way or is even similar in any way to what Sony is doing. But it's very interesting from that perspective. I just got to be honest with you. It's like I used to go to probably 20, 30 concerts a year, and you know, that was on the high end. Usually it was more between like 20 or like 10 and 20. But like nowadays it's like I got to spend, by the time I pay for the ticket, by the time I pay for parking, by the time I pay for food, by the time I pay for gas, I go to see, like, for example, when we went to see Ghost, by the time we paid for both of our tickets, our gas, our food, our parking, it was over $500 for us to go to that concert.
Damn. Wow.
And don't get me wrong, the concert was amazing. I'm not fucking with you. 10 years ago, I saw them at Mr. Small's for $25.
Damn.
Great so
value. Yeah.
Now that's just, I mean, that's kudos to them for growing and becoming big and getting their audience or whatever. But it's so hard to swallow when you're used to these situations where you could go and see a good show for even $50, $60, $70. But now it's like, even if you spend $50 on the ticket, you get there, you spend $20 to $30 on parking. And then you get inside and a beer is $15 or $20. And then, even if you're not a drinker, you want a soda, water. That's $10. You want a water, that's $8. So, but anyway, that was a huge digression. I sorry to get off on that, but I know, being into, I know if Fred was here, he'd be bitching about the same thing because we're all music oriented. But it's interesting, and I am curious how, if this stuff, we're going to see more and more of this in marketplaces across the world, if there isn't some sort of regulation, brought up about how dynamic pricing can be used. Because I do think that there is a point where it just becomes predatory. It's like, it is one of these things where, like, I have a buddy that I work with that is trying to buy a house right now. And he just bid on a house, but 2 other people bid on it at the same time. And so it's really down to who's willing to pay the most for it. But that's one person selling something they own to another person, and multiple people want it. So it's the seller's initiative to sell it to whoever they want. It doesn't have to be the highest bidder. Most often it is. But, and I guess there's an aspect of that to something like what PSN is doing or Ticketmaster. But at the same time, it's like, bro, you're not you're not a middle-aged guy selling your house so you can move to Florida or something like that. You're a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate selling thousands and thousands of concert tickets a day. You don't need to make people fight over the tickets that are available. Just it sells out. It sells out. Maybe
not to mention, I mean, they have pretty much a monopoly.
Well, and I think that's
another thing.
I think that's honestly more of the crux of the lawsuit than the actual ticket pricing thing. But it could be that the ticket pricing is because of the monopoly. And that is, they're kind of combating it in that way. Anyway, we should move on. We've been kind of talking about fucking Ticketmaster for 10 minutes. But anyway, so this next thing is kind of interesting because I was kind of wanted to pick your brain about this a little bit. Is that so? There was Fred and I talked previously before he kind of went on hiatus about the PS6 potentially being delayed due to component shortages. Mm-hmm. But there's a renowned leaker, Tom from Moore's Law is Dead, who he knows a lot. He has a lot of inside knowledge about hardware specifically, and not just the PS6, but Xbox and PC components and all this stuff. He seems to be holding his stance that the PS6 is coming out next year, and it's not going to be delayed. And I am curious how you think about this, because I'm still on my launch PS5. If this console is coming out next year, I'll just buy a PS6 when it comes out. That'll be when I upgrade. But you just last year bought a PS5 Pro. Mm-hmm. And so if the PS6 comes out next year, are you going to feel compelled to upgrade, or are you going to say like, oh, well, I've only had this console for a year and a half. There's no point in me upgrading right now. I'm just going to kind of chill for a bit, and maybe I'll get my PS6 in a few more years, or when one of my PlayStations, let's say your original PS5 bites the dust and you give your kids the Pro and then you get a PS6 or something. What are your thoughts on this? Because if it is coming out next year, I mean, regardless, I'll probably try to ride my base PS5 until it catches on fire. But if I knew that the PS6 wasn't coming out until 2030 or 2029, I would be much more incentivized to buy a PS5 Pro now and then buy a PS6 whenever it comes out. But how do you feel about this?
I mean, if I'm being honest, whenever it does come out, I'm going to get a PS6. Just because, it's just one of my main hobbies. So
sure.
I would probably do it no matter what. But all that to say, I guess my only thought is I don't really care when it comes out, because let's even keep it at the base PS5. I feel like it's such a solid console, and I'm still so happy with it. I can chill on it for another 3 years.
Right.
If the PS6 is delayed, whatever. The PS5 is great. So, but yeah, whenever the PS6 comes out, whether it is late next year or if it is 2030, whatever, I'll probably get it when it comes out.
Nice. Are you interested in the handheld at all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yes. I mean, even the Portal, I've eyed. Every time I go to Costco, I'm like,
yeah,
there it is. Yeah, I'm definitely tempted by that for sure. And you're talking about the one that's rumored.
Yeah, so it's rumored that there's going to be the PS6 is going to have a console and a handheld. And there will be a PS6 handheld iteration where you can play your PS6 games. If you have both, you can play your PS6 games on both of them. But the handheld will be a native handheld, not like a Portal. So
yeah, I'd be very down with that.
Now my biggest thing is I like the idea, but if they're both $600, I'm probably not buying both of them, right? I'm gonna buy the console, and then because it's very rare that I go on work trips and stuff where I would want a handheld, and I have my Steam Deck for that. Not that it's the best handheld in the world, but it actually works as a Portal very well. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we can scoot through. We've been going for quite a while, so we can scoot through some of these last few points here.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to kind of just throw out there that we touched on a little bit earlier is that, so according to Matt Piscatella over at Circana, he says that 60% of players intending to purchase Resident Evil 9 are over the age of 35. So this is very interesting to me. Now, it should be noted that it is a very mature game. So obviously you're not going to have 12-year-olds buying Resident Evil 9 and, you know, playing up the gore like I am. But there's something to be said about, it seems like gaming in general, it's like the guys that grew up with it 30 years ago are the guys that are driving, like when it comes to the single player style games like Resident Evil, like your Ghost of Yotes, like your whatever, they're older gamers. And that's, I don't know, the reason why I wanted to bounce this off of you is because you have kids, right?
Yeah, I have 3 kids.
And do they play video games?
Yes, a lot. I agree with you 100%.
What type of nonsense are they fucking playing?
Nonsense is I mean, some of it's cool, but like pretty much my kids all play live service games.
Yeah.
They don't play a lot of story games. I mean, the big one would be like Astrobot. They like that.
Yeah.
But then again, what you're saying is also kind of true, because it's like there's a lot of games I wouldn't let them play, like
Sure.
Last of Us or Resident Evil. But like, even so, like even my older one, I'd let him play Ghost of Yote, but he chooses not to. You know, They just mainly play, like he plays a lot of sports games. They play a lot of Fortnite, Roblox, stuff like that. They're not playing like story-driven games. So maybe that is like we're a product of the time we grew up in, because we didn't have like live service games like they are today.
Dude, I got to be honest with you, man. Every time I go hover over the YouTube app on my PlayStation, and all of the fucking recommended videos are like some streamer talking about fucking steal a brain rot, it makes me want to eat a fucking gun barrel. I'm not kidding you. I do not I don't want to take away anything from what kids enjoy. They enjoy it, great. They've got to find their niche or whatever. But if it's like you either quit playing video games or you play this, I'm done playing video games. I'll find a different hobby, because it just doesn't, it's anathema to my existence. I just visually look at Roblox and I'm like, how do you fucking play this game? Not like mechanically, how do you play this game, but like, how do you look at this game? Just like, oh, it makes my brain want to explode. But I know that you're in the trenches a little bit on this, and I am curious how you feel about it as like a dad watching your kids play this shit, because it's very interesting. And do you have any concerns of like a father letting young kids online playing these types of games, or is it relatively well curated at this point?
I mean, yeah, my main concern is like, why do you play these games when you could play much better games? Right. But in terms of like safety, because like they don't go in the chat or like actually talk to people and stuff like that. They're not doing any of that, and I think the younger ones, we even have that stuff turned off.
Nice.
So I mean, relatively safe, of course. But then again, I'm like, growing up with like ICQ and stuff, I'm like, you could get into some serious
You could do some weird shit. But you had to make an effort to like get onto it. It wasn't like while you're playing your game, some fucking pedo could be talking to you. Not that they're doing that with your kids. I'm just sort of like,
it could be though.
Yeah, it could be. And the thing is that like, I think that since Roblox has been on console and it's proliferated a lot more, I think it's gotten a lot safer and a lot better. In the early days of Roblox, it was the fucking Wild West. And I think there was a lot more of that weird shit going on. But now I think it's like, it's just like Fortnite. You know what I mean? Fortnite, I think, looks like and probably is a much better game. than Roblox is. It looks certainly way better. But I think it's kind of like the same mindset probably draws kids to both games. But how do I know? I have no idea. I've never played these games. I've dabbled in Fortnite a little bit, but even since I dicked around with it after it first came out, it's like the game is so much different now. It's got all of these like sub games and different modes and all this stuff. It's like Roblox. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like you could just build shit in Fortnite now, and it's pretty wild. So, well, that's interesting. I am curious. Go ahead.
You have a nephew, right?
I do, yes.
Yeah, I mean, just watch him if he gets into video games and see, what kind of is he playing these first person games that are story driven, or does he end up playing the Fortnites, the Call of Duties?
Well, I am curious how it's going to play out. I'm curious how it's going to play out once he gets more active with his peers, like in like friend groups and things like that, because he's only 6 now. I mean, he'll be 7 in May, but like right now he kind of plays what my brother exposes him to. So he's really into Mario Kart, he's really into Astrobot, he's really into Minecraft, he's in some of these other games where it's pretty much everything he plays now is single player. Like but he's also still very young. Like he's not, I don't know that I guess I don't know this for a fact, but as far as I know, none of his friends from kindergarten are dragging him online to play Fortnite or Roblox or something. But I know that he is, like, it's not that he's without influence, because he is playing Minecraft now, which is much more of a cultural influence than it is my brother being like, you should play Minecraft. So it is interesting, and I will definitely monitor the situation. Not that I have any control over it whatsoever, because I always think there's always like the thought experiment of like, well, if my wife and I ever have a kid, how would I present video gaming to them? And it's like, well, ideally you'd like to be like, okay, well, here's the games I like to play. Here's games, try to show them more games. Yeah, and I'm sure you probably do something similar where it's like, yeah, they may end up still just playing Fortnite and Roblox because that's what all their friends are playing. But at least they are aware of games like Super Mario World or Astrobot, to be give you a modern example or something like that. And I think that's important. I just don't think that it's not everyone is going to be, and it could be that our type of video game is dying, but I don't think that it is. I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like it's going to exist forever. Like they talk about the video game industry as big as it's ever been. It's bigger than it's ever been. More money, more money, more money. And all of it is because of this live service shit. Well, if you strip all of that away and it's just the shit that was there before, where it's all the single player stuff and like the dedicated multiplayer things, like your, Halo multiplayer mode or whatever, or your Call of Duty, it's probably still there's just as many gamers as there were. It's just as popular.
Agreed.
It's just that now there's a lot more money and stuff because of the younger gamers and the live service stuff and everything. Not saying that there isn't crossover. Obviously there is. You're a living example of that. But I hope that that means that even if it's a smaller niche, let's say, that our type of video game it'll persist forever. It's just that we'll just have to have our own little space. And it just might be that we might have to wade through all of the other stuff to get to that. And I'm not saying that I'm not even open. Like, there are live service games that I've played a lot. Like, for example, I played the Division 2 quite a bit, and I played Destiny quite a bit. But both of those games let me play them by myself. And they have a narrative component to it that keeps me moving forward, and the gameplay is very good. And I don't know that that's the case for something like a Roblox or a Fortnite. It's all about the social experience. And it's all about, like, what fucking skin you have. And
dude,
Dude,
Don't get me rolling.
I gotta ask you this: how much money have you spent on Fortnite skins?
I mean, I haven't really spent any money because you can earn like V-Bucks by playing it to some degree. So like I maybe have spent like $10 because I don't really care. My kids, that's a whole different story.
Okay,
but
well, I assume your kids are spending your money. So I am just curious about how much money in the Ocker household has been spent on Fortnite skins. And I'm not trying to judge. I'm just curious because it's like this is just a prime visualization or an example of where the industry is going because of how much money is made on these things.
So keep in mind that like we don't really buy them skins to buy them skins or because they ask. Like it would be like, oh, you got straight A's.
Oh, sure, yeah.
A birthday gift, or or they've spent their own money for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, my youngest is probably the worst. He's 6. I bet you he has spent. I mean, altogether, probably over $100 on him alone.
Wow.
Over years.
Sure.
He's played since he was probably 4.
Wow.
So like in 2.5 years, probably $100.
That's
maybe 125 for him. It's a lot of money for sure.
Yeah, it definitely.
But also like
is.
not all my money.
Like no judgment here. I'm just trying to get a perspective of like how much money gets spent on these things because you can go to the freaking store for Fortnite and half of these skins are $20 to make your character look like fucking Goku or something. And it's like, I get there's a little bit more to it than that. Like sometimes they have the special characters have special abilities and things like that. But it's like, it's so you can understand why these businesses are like, yeah, we need to do that. When you look at you look at a company like Epic who does nothing but shit out of freaking, a skin for like, I don't know, Gumby, and they just made $100 million for like a week's worth of work, and it's like,
dude, they have music, shoes, like all kinds of shit. And they have like companions now, like these little pets that follow you around, and they changed it recently where if you buy a companion, like there's different skins for that skin, like different colors or whatever. So you could get a dog and it can be like yellow lab, black lab, brown lab or whatever. And now with those, what you pick at the beginning is what you're stuck with. You can't change it. And so unless you rebuy it, and you're like,
of course. Oh man, I bought the blue dog. I want the green dog. You better buy the blue dog. You better buy the green dog. Yeah, I get it, man. It's crazy. It is really interesting, though. Okay. There's a couple other things here. Let's see. Do I really care? I don't know that I really care so much talking about the PC stuff.
Weird timing, but yeah.
Yeah. The
controller is weird.
Yeah.
Done.
Just to kind of catch listeners up. There is a Sony's been releasing games on PC for a few, like maybe 5 years now, and there's been news that they've decided to pull back from that, and because it's probably diminishing returns. They've got a new console coming out, Steam console's coming out, the new Xbox console is going to be able to play PC games, blah blah blah. So they're pulling back from that, which is whatever. It doesn't really affect us. We play on the console. But at the same time, they announced a quote-unquote PC-ready DualSense controller, which I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, what the hell is this? It looks literally like a DualSense that is just bundled with a USB cord. Because a DualSense, I don't know if you've ever played on a PC at all, but you can just plug your DualSense into a PC and use it if you have a USB cord. So it's like...
I've never hooked it to a PC, but I have hooked it to a tablet Bluetooth. It's so easy.
Right. So it's like, what is this? What is this? Like, to me, it just seems like a different box and a marketing beat. I don't think that it's anything special, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's got some crazy PC buttons on it or something that are relevant. I have no idea. So
is it hardwired? Like the wire's built into the controller?
No. I think it comes with a wire, but it's you can plug in. I think it's still got the Bluetooth functionality. You can still use it wireless. But most PCs, unless you're on a laptop, don't have built-in Bluetooth. So you either have to buy a Bluetooth dongle for your PC to connect your DualSense to it, or you have to plug it in with a USB cable, which is like when I use mine on my PC, rarely when I do, I just grab the USB-C cable, plug it in, and it works just fine. So, I don't know. Kind of weird. There's just a couple other news points here. One is that the new Capcom game, Pragmata, is coming out. It's supposed to come out April 24th. They pushed it up to April 17th, which this doesn't happen very often. And I just thought that was kind of cool because I think this game looks really interesting. Have you dicked around with this or not at all? Because there is a demo on the PSN. I don't know if you've even had any interest in it, but it's an interesting little like third-person shooter kind of game where you've got like a little android child companion, and you have to do all this like hacking and stuff while you're in combat. Like it's a really interesting idea, and I'm not saying that I'm going to play it right away, but it is something that has my attention.
I'm in the same boat. I have not tried, like you said, there's a demo or something, but I remember seeing the trailers and the stuff, like just at the last State of Play, they had one for it. And I'm very interested in it. Again, not going to buy it day one, but like if it gets good reviews, I'll definitely add it to the wish list.
Sure. Yeah, so that's kind of a cool thing just because very rarely does stuff get moved up. And maybe it's trying to avoid something. I think there's something big coming out at the end of April. Saros, maybe. So maybe they're trying to avoid releasing in the same couple days as Saros, which I guess kind of makes sense. I mean, not that Saros is going to be like this Grand Theft Auto size game, but in the market that Pragmata's in, I mean, it might make sense. Okay, so we were talking about Bethesda Game Studios earlier. Their most recent game, Starfield, it sounds like it might be shadow dropping, or if not, announcement is incoming that it might release on PlayStation on April 7th, which is really soon. I don't know. Have you seen anything about Starfield? And do you have any interest in it at all? It's basically a Bethesda game in space.
I mean, I was kind of interested like when it first was talked about, and I have a buddy who has played it on Xbox, but he didn't really have a great review of it, so I was kind of like, I'm not really interested anymore.
In the same boat. Everything that I love about, let's just say Skyrim, everything that I love about Skyrim, I don't want to say is missing from this game, but a major component to Skyrim is what I mentioned earlier, where you're just running around and you've got this area to explore and you're finding things and you're getting yourself into situations and story arcs that you didn't expect and blah, blah, blah. And Starfield is basically just fast travel from here to here, do a little mission, fast travel from here to here, do a little mission, fast travel from here to here, do a little mission. And that's just, it takes all of the wonder out of it for me, spending all of my time in loading screens on my spaceship. And so I did play it for like 50 hours. So I'm not like sitting here and saying that it's like the worst game in the world. I did enjoy it, but I didn't see it all the way through to the end because it was missing for me on the stuff in their games that typically drag me on to the next point, you know. So
it wasn't there.
Right. But it'll be interesting to see how it does on PlayStation, because I think they're potentially going to release a new update and stuff for it too. So maybe there's going to be something there. The last news point that I have here, and it's a whatever news point. Highguard, the beleaguered game that was announced at the end of the Video Game Awards in December, is already shutting down after 3 months. Now, based on the way that it was received when it was announced, nobody thought this game was going to survive as a live service game, a free-to-play title. But in spite of what everybody was saying online, when I saw the trailer for it, I was like, I don't understand why this is the the one more thing of the video game awards, but I actually don't think it looks that bad. I think it looks kind of interesting. You can summon these mounts, and you can run. These types of games aren't for me, but I was like, oh, as someone who doesn't play these games, I thought this looked totally fine, cool even. But the people weren't having it, and it seems like after 3 months, it will be shut down, and they are releasing a bunch of content for like the last week or two. It might even be this coming week. If it hasn't died already, it might even be this coming week that they're shutting it down. So there is some stuff that is out there, to give you a little bit of a last hurrah with the game if you do really like it. I don't know if you, whenever this game launched, if you downloaded it and gave it a try. I thought about doing it just because of how everyone was shitting on it, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. This is just the world we live in, where there's the haves and have-nots of live service. How do you think about this? Like, how much money you and I make as individuals trying to support our families? How much money we spend on groceries? How much money we spend on gas and just even the little hobbies that we have, like music or video games? And then you look at the video game industry and you see how many billions of dollars are just flushed down the toilet for the live service chase. And this is just the most recent example of it. And it makes me, from that perspective, it makes me want to vomit. But it is what it is. And I don't know how you feel about this. My personal opinion is that, like, games in the past used to always have they used to put in like a multiplayer component. Imagine if all of these free-to-play games, they just added on just like a simple single-player component. They would allow people to just play them even if like the servers were dead or something like that. Maybe it's not worth it to them. But you could see a scenario where, like, I might jump into High Guard even after it's dead, if it's free to download, or even if it's like the game's free to download, but you pay $20 for a single player mission for it or something. It's like, I don't know. It's a bummer to me, and it drives me crazy from a fiscal perspective, how much money they're just literally shoveling at this. They're just shoveling money into a fireplace just to try and get that one Fortnite, that one Apex Legends, that, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
No, I mean, I agree. It's crazy. I actually played High Guard. I probably played 3 or 4 matches, and I was like, this isn't that bad. It didn't, like, catch me 100%, but I was like, it felt a little different. It had some aspects to it and put some different mechanics together that I felt like were kind of fresh. So I'm kind of bummed to see it die, but no, I agree 100%. It's like wild to think about the like tens of billions of dollars that have gone into these live service games just for nothing. It's like if you would have invested in a good story driven game, like you might have had something and made your money back and more.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, not to get on a segue here because I know we've been going a long time, but like I'm nervous about that new Horizon game.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like you've put the Horizon name tag on this, and so people are going to like up their expectations, and it's going to be so hard to live up to that when if you just would have made like the same game but not Horizon, maybe it would have done well. But you've already like so anyways, I don't know. I really hope we get past this live service thing trend, because it doesn't seem healthy to waste this much money.
Yeah, and I just don't like the nickel and dime culture we've cultivated economically, where everything's a subscription now.
I hate that.
Like, my wife is a speech pathologist, and she has an application that gets put on iPads that allows her nonverbal kids to talk. It's like an iPad app that they can use to communicate, like talk and stuff. And it used to be you buy the app for, she was telling me, it used to be buy the app for $50 or $60 and you had the app. Now you have to pay $10 a month for it. These kids are going to theoretically be using this application for years and years. And instead of like Like, as a parent, if I was in that scenario, I would much rather just give you $200 for the app and never have to pay for it again, because my kid might be using it for 5 years or 10 years or whatever. But now it's like that jump seems insane. It's like because you think about in 5 months, they're already making more money on it. And it's like, it's everything. It's we've had PlayStation Plus for a long time, but it's Netflix. It's every fucking thing now that you want to watch is on its own different streaming platform. So now instead of paying $150 a month for cable, you're paying $150 a month for 10 different streaming platforms. And it's super frustrating. You want to use Premiere? Too bad. You could pay $500 for it 10 years ago and you would have it. Maybe you wouldn't get updates or whatever, but you'd have the version of it. Now it's like, nope, you got to pay $200 a year for it. Oh, you want Microsoft Office? Nope. You can't buy Microsoft Office anymore. You can only pay whatever it is, $75 to $150 a year for Office 365 or whatever, which is really annoying from the perspective of a customer who has we give customers a lot of computers that cannot be online, and it's like, how do you fucking put Office on this thing? And right, it's like everything's like that now, even Windows. So I don't know. It is frustrating, but yeah.
Didn't BMW even do it with like fucking seats or something? Like heated seats was
yeah, cars are doing that. Like all these cars, like Tesla and stuff, that all have this online shit now. Like my father-in-law has a Tesla, and he's got like features in his car that are literally locked out unless he subscribes, and then it will enable them remotely so that when he's driving around, he can use these features. It's psychotic. I can't imagine like that being, I don't know. I don't know. We're not going to, sooner or later, we're not going to own anything. Everything's going to be a subscription. And that's, it's very frustrating, but it is what it is. All right, LJ, we've been going for like 2 hours and 40 minutes here. So yeah, this is by far the longest podcast. And I know I can be a little bit verbose, but you and I have never been on a show one-on-one before. So there's a lot of chit-chatting, and I'm totally okay with that. So
same.
We're going to hit the road here. Like I mentioned earlier, guys, if you want to, you can subscribe to the one and only $1 Club on Patreon. And just for $1 a month, which, like we mentioned earlier, you literally can't buy anything for $1 anymore. So it's really not that bad of a deal. You get a free sticker. You get a shout out on the show. We literally make no money on it. So it all just goes back into the show. So it's not like we're trying to, if we're trying to make money, it certainly wouldn't be $1. But it is kind of a thing for us. I don't know when Fred will be back. We'll see when he comes back. I still have to talk with him a little bit and see when that's going to be. In the meantime, I'm going to hold down the fort, either talking with random guests like LJ here or doing solo episodes by myself. We'll have to see how it plays out. But yeah, so do you have any final thoughts you would like to share, LJ?
I don't. Yeah, just thanks for having me on. And yeah, support the boys, freaking like the YouTube video, subscribe, join the $1 Club. I'm part of that. Yeah, just support what they do.
It's amazing. I was thinking about it on the way. I was in the car earlier today, and I was thinking about it that this podcast has been going for almost 13 years is how long we've been doing it. And we still have a very small audience. Now, part of that is our fault that we had like a 2-year hiatus because of there's a bunch of shit going on in my life and Fred's life, like simultaneously, that screwed the whole thing up. But even still, it's like you would think that at some point somebody's going to come across the podcast and be like, oh, there's 415 episodes here I can listen to. And there will be, people that will be interested in it. But I'm not really doing it to get famous or anything like that. And Fred isn't either. It's just an excuse for us to get together and talk about video games. And it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier, playing in the band. The biggest reason I play in the band is to hang out with my friends, and it gives me an excuse to play music. Otherwise, I would probably never play. And so that's good. Well, anyway, LJ, thanks for being on. I'd love to have you back. I might need to call on you again if Fred is out for an extended period of time, if you're interested. But other than that, we will get out of here. So, like Saints Row, Sandland, and Secret Agent Clank, P.S.
P.S.
This is awesome.